Nigeria at 65. It's been a day filled with activities here on the Nigerian Television Authority, live from Abuja. I'm Ayodeji. Makinde's 65 years has been quite a journey for this great country that became independent on October 1, 1960. Yes, our founding fathers, our founding mothers, even the founding sons and daughters have all grown into shaping what the country has become today. Well, we'll be taking you through the next few hours to really look into some other emerging issues as Nigeria crosses the 65 landmark, moving into year 66. Well, the land is green, the sky is blue. Please join me as I welcome into the studio Ogaga Ifeodo is a PhD holder and also a lawyer. You're welcome to the studio of NTA at Nigeria at 65.
Happy birthday to Nigeria and glad to be here.
Something tells me you're extremely proud to be a Nigerian. You're one of them.
Absolutely.
All right, surely we're going to have enough time to talk about so many issues, but on this evening ride, I'm not alone. Surely my friend who is Ruth Aguele and my colleague has a lot from the roots with our own guests in our own segments out there. Ruth, what a day for Nigeria, at least you can see in me. Proudly Nigeria.
I can see it, Ayo, and you look, spectacular.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on the panel session, taking the baton over from Claire Adelabu Abdurazak. And of course, my heart beats for Nigeria. That's why I'm still holding it down on the dial till this time. It's been a robust conversations from the morning session, and we'll welcome you officially to the afternoon session. I have two panelists here in the studio with me. What are we talking about? It's, of course, Nigeria is 65. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to leverage on our diversity. In terms of the gains and, of course, the challenges recorded, it is time to reflect, looking back, and of course forging ahead for a greater future. I'd like to welcome here Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, Professor of Communication, Bayes University. Happy Independence, Prof.
Same to you. Thank you very much.
And thank you for being so Nigerian.
Yeah.
Because
Happy
you always,
Independence, Nigeria. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I would also like to welcome Professor Joy Ngozi Ezelo. She's a senior advocate of Nigeria, a versatile legal scholar, former commissioner for gender and social development in Enugu State, former dean of UNN, and UN special rapporteur. Prof, your profile speaks of your Nigerianness because you have touched base on different aspects. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and happy independence.
Happy independence. I'm sure we're going to have a robust conversation. But in the meantime, we want to greet you, from the east and, of course, from the south. So let's get greetings from Abia and south.
Nigeria, Mele Bratabitwaye, Nigeria, welcome Kule. Bie mele yemba me kuraya tarasi sona kuraifen Nigeria brate betwa mambaite do Nigeria welcome kule
mena bias agadobum from Ekrimu local government. So me Nigeria omkile kamel omone obetwa ngoditim kura tarasi sona kura mbaide but Nigeria omkile kamel. Then one but take bulum in your room. Nigeria bo Minnesota come sem go I'm come say la when you lie. Miss okay mako acclimate.
This is Membe from Bayelsa State. We are fishermen. This is our occupation. We love fishing. We are wishing Nigerian Independence Day. Happy Independence Day.
For many residents of Umuahia, the day is a reminder of both the struggles of the past and the hopes for a better tomorrow. They noted with pride that the country has remained resilient despite daunting challenges.
We've had our challenges, we've had our ups and downs, but the most important thing is that we are striving harder to ensure that democracy is sustained.
Don't forget that this nation fought a civil war that lasted almost 3 years, and after the civil war it remained one nation.
We've had several coups, political instabilities, but still, we are still waxing strong as one country.
Others, however, lamented economic hardship, unemployment and insecurity, urging leaders to make policies that genuinely reflect the needs of the people.
This is the retirement age of an individual. But till now, that Nigeria is 65, it has been from one issue to another. Nothing gets better. It has still, the story has still not changed.
Insecurity is increasing. There is food scarcity.
It's quite unfortunate that our country is lagging behind. Nigeria is supposed to have crossed to where they are now.
As Nigeria marks its 65th years of independence, residents of Umuahia expressed optimism that with better leadership and the resilience of the people, the nation can move closer to its true potential. In Umuahia, Ifeoma Ndu Okolie, NTA News.
Of course, they say our strength lies in our diversity. And as a Nigerian, your diversity, of course, is the beauty you see from within. The patriotic spirit you believe in, that yes, Nigeria comes first for you any day and any time. Let's cross over. We're still in the, of course, the North Central. I'd like to join my colleague, Jonathan, there in Lokoja. Jonathan, happy independence anniversary, 65. What are your thoughts?
Independence from Lokoja, the capital of Kogi State. It's a very beautiful day here, and I decided to come to the confluence of the River Niger and Benue, and for certain reason, you look behind this river, and one of the things that it tells you is the unity of Nigeria. At this confluence, you have the convergence, not just of River Niger and Benue, but it's also symbolically a convergence of the states that make up Nigeria, the cultures, the people, and everything that hold this country together. And so this river, of course, is very symbolic, and no wonder this was the inspiration behind the name Nigeria. Not too far from this place, you have Mount Patti, where Flora Shaw, of course, could have a very good view of this river. And of course, it was right there at Mount Patti, looking down at this confluence, this river, that the inspiration behind the name Nigeria was given. And so for the people of Lokoja, today is very, very historic for them because they are part of the story of Nigeria. They are part of the journey to nationhood. You can talk about the independence, the struggle, and all the things that transpired during the colonial era to the independence without mentioning Lokoja and, of course, Kogi State. And so it's a beautiful day for the people. Before we came up here, I tried to speak with some of the older generation just to get their views on what independence means for them, and they sounded very nostalgic. Of course, it's a very beautiful day, and many of them wished Nigeria happy independence, and that the things that hold us together, the bond, the ties, of course, will continue to be strong. Just as you have the confluence here, the two rivers, inseparable. The desire is that Nigeria will remain inseparable, one united, one formidable nation.
Indeed, Jonathan, you've just captured it all. You know, when you were speaking, I was just reflecting back to history. You get to learn some of these things even when you were not there when it happened. But these are remarkable, sites across the country that reminds us of our heritage and, of where we're coming from. If you don't keep record of the past, you can, of course, forge ahead for the future. So you said you spoke to some, cross-section of Nigerians, especially the elder ones. Nigerians. Would you mind sharing some of their thoughts? Especially, you know, Ayo mentioned earlier that there are also sons and daughters, the founding sons and daughters. You know, Jonathan, we fall under the purview of the founding sons and daughters, if you get what I mean. So what are the expectations from Nigerians you've spoken to, especially residents of Lokoja there? What are they looking forward to? Yes, we have our struggles over the years, but, you know, in a united spirit and purpose, what is the future saying for them?
So, just like I mentioned, several of them, they sounded very nostalgic. I'm talking about Nigeria. They saw Nigeria in its bloom. They saw Nigeria in its glory at independence. There were several things that they looked forward to. Somehow we've not been able to achieve all of these things, but of course there is that optimism, and the expectation is that the current crops of leaders that we have, and of course the ones that will be coming after these ones, we try to tighten the knots, are those things that hold us together as a nation. They believe that together we are stronger. This nation, of course, they believe, or just like they said, it's full of creative people, great minds, that if we harness the potential.
Okay, we've lost your signal there, Jonathan, but I'm sure what you're trying to say is that when we continue to work together, just like the confluence point there where you're standing from, of course, we'll continue to forge ahead for a prosperous nation. Jonathan, I hear you're back, so continue your thoughts, please, or complete your thoughts. Jonathan, you were sharing your thoughts with us. You didn't conclude, so please just conclude. Can you hear me? Okay, go ahead, please, Jonathan, if you can hear me. Just conclude your thoughts.
Yes. They were part of everything that transpired, and today they expect that those things that the nation looked forward to in the course at the point of independence, that the current crop of leaders that we have and those that, of course, will be coming afterwards, will work on those things so that Nigeria will remain a strong, united country.
Of course, that's what the 65th Independence Anniversary theme is talking about. All hands on deck for a greater Nigeria. Thank you so much for your contribution here. And happy Independence Anniversary once again, Jonathan. Thank you. All right, talking about all hands on deck, my colleague Ayo, I'd like to cross over to him. Ayo, is your hand on the deck?
Well, as it is right now, it just has to be. I cannot afford to be on the other side of good things, you know. So the hands are on deck. We're leveraging Nigeria's diversity. The land is green. The sky is blue. Well, welcome to my little corner here with Dr. Ogaga Efowodo. We're leveraging on Nigeria's unity, diversity as we celebrate 65 years. It's been quite a journey. Some would say the road has been smooth, rough, bumpy, but surely there is hope ahead if we put into consideration one of Nigeria's strengths at the moment, which is its youthful population that's productive.
Yes, and actually, even though we are 65 as an independent nation, we are still very young compared to other nations. And also, the whole history of the nation state is young in terms of social evolution of humans in society. So we are young. So we not only have a youthful population, Nigeria itself is young. Although somebody remarked earlier that at 65, that's already getting towards the age when we'll retire. But that's as an individual. But as a country, we're young. So we have our future ahead of us. And I think we have a lot to celebrate. to be grateful for, principally because after that very, very big test of our nationhood, just a mere 6 years after independence, I'm talking about the Nigerian Civil War, we overcame it, we are still together, and that gives me hope that whatever other challenge we will face as a nation, we will overcome it. And I think a careful reading of the president's speech, President Tinubu's speech, points in that direction, that the road is rough, the tunnel is dark, but there's a light glimmering at the end of the tunnel. And all it requires of us as Nigerians is to renew hope, redouble hope, and stay focused on the idea of making Nigeria self-actualize and take its place as a leader, not only of Africa, but of the black world generally, and also among the community of nations. So I'm hopeful. I will say Happy Independence Day to Nigeria.
Well, again, some scholars have written it that at independence, Nigeria had a manifest destiny and a historic mission to really be the leader of the African continent, or Africans anywhere in the world. And Nigeria really, did it for many times, despite its own internal challenges that faced it. In contemporary times, people or some scholars would also say, yes, with some developments in Burkina Faso, in Niger Republic, with issues of democratic governance, and some other parts of Africa where there are insurrections, that this could be a bit overwhelming for the Nigerian state. What's your own take on that?
The truth actually is that we punched above our weight,
okay,
as a nation. When barely independent, we took on the mantle of liberating the rest of the continent and devoting our resources, huge amounts of our resources, to that struggle. We're punching above our weight. And in a lot of ways, Nigeria has overachieved. We may not realize it when we think of all the troubles we've had. Because we've had many, from, like I said earlier, the Civil War to the history of military coups that truncated our sense of a true federation and put us on that disjointed road to nowhere, central government, unity government, that kind of distorted our institutions, policy, and made it impossible for us to self-actualize. So somehow we've always managed to achieve more than our history told us we could do. So, yes, the tasks are many, but because we are Nigeria, because we are the largest concentration of black people on earth, we ought to also punch above our weight. We also ought to do more than we are asked to do. Because, like they say, to whom much is given, from him much is expected. So that in itself, that aspiration to do more than is expected of us, should lead us to recognize that no matter how big the demand is, we should be able to achieve it. I think Nigeria can, more than can. There are nations that have not even a quarter of the resources we have in terms of human resources and natural resources, but who are way up there economically, politically, and socially. So we too can actually do it. So I think it's overwhelming if you take it in terms of the enormity of what is to be done, but in terms of our capacity to achieve, I think we can do it.
Well, at 65, some would say as the wine gets older, it gets better. So surely much will be expected from Nigeria moving forward post 65. As at this time on October 1, 1960, never mind, I wasn't born then, surely the Union Jack had been lowered and the white-green flag by Taiwo Akikumi was already hoisted high. So let's have more insights from Ruth Aguele's corner as well.
You know, if you had told me you were born then, I would have wondered. Okay, Ayo, thank you so much. But before I engage, you know, we have two professors here, and I'm just wondering how we're going to, you know, go on with this conversation. But before I come to my guest here in the studio, we'd like to welcome our guest who is joining us via Zoom, Dr. Laraba Shoda, the president of the African Regional Council of Women. She's also a member of the Board of International Council of Women. Thank you so much, Dr. Shoda. Happy Independence to you.
Independence. Thank you so much.
Okay, Dr. Shoda, you have played significant role and you're still playing significant role. We're talking peace building, we're talking nation building. If you want to give us your own perspectives when you're doing your reflection today, because of course it's a time to reflect on socio-economic and political struggles over time, what would be your thoughts?
I'd like to say that I was born there. I was about 5 years old when during the time of the independence, and I saw all the running about. Though I didn't understand what was going on, the activities that were going on, I didn't understand. But this much I know: Nigeria has really walked a long way. Where for 65 years, we have walked a road of triumphs, a road of trials, and we are still standing strong. And I'm sure we are still going to be better. We're still coming out very, very strong. We've had a lot of triumphs. We are self-governed now. We have our independence, which is the #1 gain that we had. And also, our economy is growing. We are the largest economy in Black Africa, which is a big gain for us. A lot of things are happening in Nigeria, good things, and of course, not so good things. We have our democracy, which is very important. We have moved from military rule to political government, which is a gain for Nigeria. And we have our almost 250 ethnic groups, which is, I would say it's a plus for us, because we have cultural diversity, which brings us together and makes Nigeria a colorful place. That's why we have rich culture, we have rich arts, we have excelled in so many things, including sports, including filmmaking, and so on. Nigeria is a great country. I know that we still have some hiccups here and there, like poverty is one of our main problem. The disparity between the poor and the rich is so wide and is getting wider. But we hope, with all the things being put together, we hope that very soon things will look better for us that are at the grassroots, and the gap will begin to close up little by little, because Nigeria doesn't even have what do they call it? The middle class anymore. It's that the rich and the poor. And I hope that with time, since the president's tunnel has a light at the end of it, I'm sure the light will bring about good things. They will bring about the closing of gaps. And we know that we have gained in Nigeria through social civil society programs. In those days, they started during the independence. A lot of women, especially, and men that came schooled abroad were the ones that were actually advocating for this independence. But it has grown now. We have civil societies, NGOs, advocating for good governance, advocating for human rights, and so on. That is gain. I think it's a gain for our country. So the long and short is that we are getting there. We are still young. The road is rough. The road is long, but we are getting there gradually. And by the grace of God, I'm sure there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Indeed, I like your optimism there, Dr. Shoda, and of course reiterating what the president said. He said that the administration, talking about this administration, is setting things right, turning things over, and of course hoping to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We'll get back to you, Dr. Shoda. I want to engage my guest here in my corner, Professor Adeniyi. I know it's too prof when I say prof. Okay, so Professor Adeniyi, I know you share a lot of thoughts you know, when we're looking at our 65th year anniversary and looking at our journey, where we're coming from and where we're headed. I know it's not been, you know, a jolly good ride, so to say, and it's not yet uhuru for us as a nation. But of course, if we want to recount on nationhood, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you very much. Excellent way to put it. You know, it's a fact of development, political, economic evolution of nations, you know, that experiences can be very different. We have seen nations balkanized, we have seen nations risen, and we have seen nations crashed. Nations, you know, have gone from glory, you know, from grace to grass. And we have also seen counter-narratives, you know. It can happen in any way. In the case of Nigeria, we started from a trajectory of independence, and 65 years on, you know, 65 years on is definitely a point, you know, for us to be celebratory. There are several reasons for us to glory in the fact that we are 65 years old. First, we have a burgeoning set of people, 230 million, and the last count, who can easily associate themselves with Nigeria as their nation. And we know what this does in a world of controversies, a world of contradictions, you know, where we're having stateless citizens, we're having people, perhaps on a positive note, you know, saying that they bear dual identity. Even if you bear a dual identity, you still want to be associated with a primary nation. And Nigeria serves that purpose for those class of people. And we've also seen people, you know, coming into this country as foreigners, workers, thriving and prospering. So there are different levels at which we can glory in the fact of our Nigerianness as a people. But there are also reasons, apart from the individual level, but maybe at the corporate level, at the level of the bigger picture. You know, Nigeria as an entity has thrived over the years in terms of historical participation in liberation struggles, in the agitation for independence of other nations, and of course in helping other nations to resolve crises. Crises around wars, you know, that almost led to the collapse of those nations. And of course, we have also had our own internal crisis, you know, which Dr. Ofowodo referred to earlier, that we survived, you know. So we have moved from different trajectories across crises, you know, and over difficulties. And now we are stabilizing at the level of politics. We have had military coups, counter coups, you know, long years of military rule that lasted nearly 3 decades. And of course, we have moved into a democratic dispensation, which is nearly 3 decades now as well. You know, so it's a whole lot of issues that we have overcome. And yes, we're having challenges. And of course, there's no entity that can strive without challenges. But how are we dealing with those challenges? And what more can we do to get to the destination that we want to get to? But I think we should also underscore that fact that yes, we are glorying, we are 65, we have economic challenges, we have political challenges, right? And so many other challenges. Could we have done better than we are presently recording? Oh, yes, we can say yes for many reasons, because we have nations that were at par with us at the level of economic prosperity and at the time of our own political independence. Nations of the global south, oftentimes we refer to Singapore correctly, yes, Malaysia correctly, yes, India correctly, yes, China correctly, yes, and to some extent Brazil. Now, are they doing better than us now? We can say yes, but does it mean that we should lose hope? No. There are still some more things that we need to do. And what are these things? Very, very obvious. Yes, earlier on I said we can glory in our Nigerianness. But why do we continue to believe, you know, that Nigeria is a country, you know, that is probably temporary? You know, why are we not proud enough? You know, what has happened to our level of patriotism, our level of nationalism? You know, why do we privilege dual citizenship, which somebody call half citizenship, much more than, you know, investing our hope in our country? So that the very many things that we are exporting abroad, including the exportation of our hope, you know, can be domiciled here, and so that it can stimulate development processes and procedures, and we can up the ante at the level up the ante in terms of development and progress, as the case could be.
You know, Prof, I like the fact you mentioned the Nigerianness in us, because that is what will spur development. Whether you're a leader or you're a follower, it cuts across. Professor Ezelu, there's a lot, of course, that has been spoken all day and will still be talked about even beyond this conversation. But for you, let me borrow the Nigerianness from Prof. If you say you have that Nigerianness in you and you hold a position or not, what are you supposed to stand for in unity?
Yeah, I think I will say congratulations to us. At 65 is definitely a milestone, and a milestone to celebrate. And it's also a time for stock taking, for acknowledgement of those heroes and heroines that made it possible for us to be standing today as a country. And as well, it's a time to celebrate. We are not seeing much of the celebration as we used to celebrate as children. And then again, a time to look forward. And then talking about the Nigerianness, I think we're distinct people. Never mind, we are 250 ethnic groups or even more. And despite that, we say unity in diversity. Yeah. And that's how we want that diversity to work for us, to be a political resources, to be a tool for us to embrace, when we embrace that diversity and then make it live in harmony and respect each other and each other's ethnic group. And then we can then drive and strive to build a nation that we can all be proud. Because as a Nigerian, for example, if you're talking of your Nigerianness, sometimes you go anywhere in the world, before you just know, you can spot a Nigerian. If you're a Nigerian,
surely,
by their character, by their behavior, by their bustling lifestyle, by the food, and the fact that they don't pretend to say this is what they want, and they just stand out there and people know it, and we have many of those distinctive features, whether in our food, whether in our dress, whether in the way we speak, and then you see us sometimes, and unfortunately too, more united when we're out of the country than when we're inside the country. And then to that extent, we say that Nigerian factor or Nigerianness, there is one they call Nigerian factor. Then we have Nigerianness that bring out that good people of Nigeria that are proud of their country, because you have to be proud of your country if you don't have any other country. Never mind, of course, the Japa syndrome is there. Then there is Nigerian factor that could also be negative, of course. And then, of course, when they say Nigerian happened to you, then of course, that connotes it connotes something very, very negative and bad. So in all of that, we have to have a good, a mix of that. But Nigerianness, we have to embrace that as Nigerians that are patriotic, that love our country, that do all of the things that are expected of people that love their country. And then also, and that will go to both leadership and followership. And then have your expectation met. If you're a good citizen, for example, you're supposed to pay your tax, you're supposed to observe the law, and then you're supposed to also preach harmony and not hate speech. And you're supposed to live with your neighbor in peace. And then if you're a good leader, you're supposed to be responsive. You're supposed to have a character to be able to show leadership by example and demonstrate it and carry your people along. And you're supposed to have feeling for your people, and you're supposed to govern and give dividends of good governance, so that the people can also live happily. And one of the most basic duty of government is issues around security, security of persons, security of the environment, and the issue of course, protection of lives and property is all part of that, and providing basic needs: water, sanitation, shelter, housing. Those are the expectations, so that people can live decent life and have sustainable livelihood. And I think that is important, because you say happy people, then happy nation. Yes. Of course, the happy nation breeds happy people, and then if people are not happy, then a lot of things will go wrong. They need infrastructural development, and they need the government to do their part, and then you do your part as your civic responsibility. You're voting in elections, those taxes, all of those are civic responsibility. But you would like also to see that your tax work for you, that you can proudly say, I'm a taxpayer, I'm a Nigerian, and then it's my tax that is paying you. But then, of course, there is a total disconnection or gulf in all of this and mismatch. And then when we look at 65, you say, definitely we have to celebrate it. But my concern these days is that, and we really need to work hard to make sure we celebrate this, because it's beyond the fact that you have a public holidays, which you're supposed to observe as a patriotic citizen, but the fact that people have just lost it, I recall my time in Enugu growing up, and then it's independence. We do all sorts of things. Everything is shut down. People eat, people enjoy. Yeah. This morning, the first call I'm getting, waking me up, is that, today is Independence Day, and I don't have food for my children. So, and then of course, nobody will talk of chicken, because if you talk of chicken and you're earning minimum wage, you have to have 20,000 naira to buy a chicken. You cannot talk of eggs then. So we need to really work to see that we bring back people to that level where they take pride in their country. Okay. Because for me, I have no other country. I have to be proud of Nigeria. I have to accept the fact that I'm a Nigerian and accept that Nigerianness and work to make sure we build a better nation. It has to be a collective effort. And a collective, of course, we know it's a work in progress. We have made progress. We have also regressed. And then we're still working. Okay. And when somebody says 65, we are still young. I don't think we are that young. Okay, and then someone says 65, is the time for retirement. And whatever case, 65, you celebrate. Indeed. Because it's not easy.
Okay, Prof, you've just reminded a lot of us, especially Nigerians out there, how it used to be. And it starts from the foundation. It starts from how you shape those values. And it's good that the National Orientation Agency presently is planning to unveil its National Values Charter. Of course, values that will remind us of who we are, what we embody as Nigerians. Now, if Nigeria could speak, I'm sure each and every one of us will have a part to play and also, have a voice in it, because you actually do have a voice and Nigeria is speaking. That's what our next report is talking about.
It means our ability to maneuver our way through the world without having to rely on any other country.
It's all about freedom, generally.
It means be free from control.
To think, to decide decision by oneself without external or any influence.
So it's actually a stage of maturity, being able to take care of yourself.
To meet Tinubu.
Nnamdi Azikiwe.
Late President Yar'Adua.
I think Jonathan.
President Tinubu.
I would have loved to interview former President Olusegun Obasanjo.
President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Let me be the president. Bola Ahmed Tinubu now. I'd like to ask him about the economy and how is this region going.
I want to ask President Obasanjo how come he saw the vision of technology.
I would have asked him why they never put in place a structure or an institution or a process where our leaders are supposed to pass through, and of course, beyond their educational qualification, it would also be a yardstick for preparing them and testing their ability to actually be leaders at any level.
I think we're doing exactly what we are prepared to do. Remember, we have only had 64 years of independence and maybe 90 years of education. Other countries that you might compare us to have about 300, 400 years of education. So we're par for our course.
Then I would say that the country is not living up to its age at all.
It's still like a boy of, let's say, a boy that's trying to grow up.
We have so many countries, so many nations that are doing much more better that are not even up to 60 years or 50 years, and they are doing very well, not even bigger than up to the size of Nigeria, but they are doing well.
The achievement is Nigeria trying to realize who they are, the power of being in Nigeria.
In 1960, I can say, well, we've actually done well in digitalization, even though we would have done much better.
Even if I haven't been outside the country, but at least we're on social media. We've seen a lot of things, we hear a lot of things from other countries, but Nigeria is one of its kind. We always support each other.
Aviation sector has proven to be one that has seemingly experienced consistent growth and improvement over these years.
The light situation in Nigeria is pretty cool, because I think we are moving forward, because definitely everybody is to see light every day now compared to before.
So I'm seeing the picture that if predicted, we are going to be great, because Nigeria is great.
They have been better, economic-wise, sections, every other aspect would have been better.
I do not really see us making so much of a shift, because until we address these two things, insecurity and religious-based conflicts, then we're not about to actually make progress.
I imagine to see Nigeria as a great nation if we erase the corruption of our bad leaders and trying to build up Nigeria in a better way.
Nigeria will be better, plus or minus. It will. I'm confident of that. Nigeria will be better. We are just going through a process now. It will not be easy, and it's so sad that some persons that are working towards that will not see it. But for me, I feel Nigeria will be better.
I don't even know a single thing from you.
No, I don't think I can sing the recent national anthem now.
No, I don't know that. I can't.
No, singer, when I never chop, I want the chop. I know see rice, you video and I want chop now. The people don't chop, go sing national anthem. I don't know it. I have to, when I'm eating, maybe that time I'll start thinking of how to learn national anthem.
Okay, so go chop, so that you go learn them, because it's very important. I'll be prof. You have to know the national anthem. It's part of our identity. And, you know, it's an honor. It's a pledge for honor to your country. It's no jokes. You must know the national anthem. So I hand you back to my colleague, Ayodeji, who is old in the heart, according to my director, but young in the spirit. Ayodeji, I hope you can sing the national anthem.
You know, that is mandatory here in the NTA. It didn't take us a long time after it was, made official before most of us knew it from the first stanza to the third stanza. But it's really interesting to see Nigerians reacting there.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't far-fetched.
Yeah.
When there was a report that said Nigerians are actually the happiest people in the world. No matter the situation, they'll find a way of giving themselves the satisfaction.
They always do.
Yes.
They always do.
But some things there are unforgivable, actually. But let's come back to my corner here and still have some interesting conversation here with Ogaga. We've seen so many things, reactions from Nigerians as to the kind of country that they really want. Interesting to also note that while there's so many optimists, those with pessimism also still want to see Nigeria get better. Now, Ogaga, we heard the conversation from both university dons at the other side with Ruth there. And one thing is central, making Nigeria great, making Nigeria better. If we go back memory lane, October 7, 1960, the speech by Nigeria's Prime Minister Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, where he really reeled out what formed the components of Nigeria's foreign policy and what Nigeria really set out to be. At some points, we've had visionary leaders. Well, every leader has a vision, no doubt. But while some seem to have laid down the foundation, that keeps that will keep building on. There's some structures because of lack of continuity that we are not really getting the rapid development that we want on all frontiers. But how can we move forward post 65?
That policy, I think, was Africa as the centerpiece of Nigeria's foreign policy.
Yes.
And as I said earlier, I think generally we held fast to that. We know just how much we contributed to the anti-apartheid and the decolonization process in Africa after our independence, down to the last bastion, which was South Africa, which no lesser a person than Nelson Mandela himself acknowledged the gargantuan role that Nigeria played. But I think we have to extend that now. We can't, at this point in the 21st century, say that Africa is the centerpiece of our foreign policy. Yes, it will be a fundamental pillar of our foreign policy, but the world has become, like they say, quote unquote, a global village. And we live in a virtual reality of being simultaneously enmeshed in our own issues and the rest of the world. So our policy must be global. Our vision must be global. Where does Nigeria intend to be in the global scheme of things? It can't just be in the African scheme of things, but in the global scheme of things. We need to be a global leader. And if we're a global leader, automatically we are the leaders of Africa. So in other words, aspiring higher means that the question of Africa. I thought I used this.
Well, surely somebody watching you at home. It could be distracting anyway, but go ahead.
Certainly, yeah. So, in short, is that we must have a global vision. And that is what best positions us to be the leader of Africa. And I think in that sense, achieving real self-actualization, bringing prosperity home to Nigerians, security of the geopolitical space of Nigeria, is the strength we have at home domestically is what also gives us a pedestal to lead, either even at the continental level and at the world level. So at the end of the day, these things must always be taken together. We cannot compartmentalize them. So this is a Nigerian domestic, this is the African continental, and then this is the global one. But are all of them, these balls, these three balls, we must keep them in the air at the same time and juggle them, knowing that if we are not self-sufficient at home, if we are not leading by example and showing true democracy and practicing it at home, if we are not strengthening our institutions, then chances are we can't be successful at any other task that we set ourselves, whether even at the continental level or at the global level.
Okay, now let me put this to you particularly. You've talked about the reason to really get our arts right. When Nigeria started in 1960, it was on regional basis, and lately there's been these big call for restructuring. And so the constitution review at different geopolitical zones of the country, at the zonal level, at the state level, and the clamor for states. Some experts believe that if we go with the current trend at the moment, that it's going to, Nigeria might end up having about 180 states.
250
what do you say to this?
Actually, I think anybody talking about state creation at this moment, I don't know. I would have to ask, is that a joke? State creation, when what we actually need at this point is to even reduce the number of states, to restructure Nigeria back to the regional basis. Maybe not the 3 regions or even the 4 regions with Midwestern region coming on board in 1963, but certainly in the thinking of those who are paying attention to this issue, anywhere between 6 to 8 regions will adequately take care of the regional governance of Nigeria so that the powers at the center can be reduced. If we go by this idea that we must create states as if we are just creating administrative units, which is what they really are, as a matter of fact, we end up not with 80 as serious against even 180. But with the 250 odd ethnic nationalities we have in Nigeria, each one of them is going to have a state. There will always be a reason for one group to feel marginalized, excluded, and therefore to think that the solution to being marginalized or excluded is to have a state of their own. I think the National Assembly should forget totally about the issue of state creation and focus more on how to convene a sovereign national conference. And if anybody is afraid of the word sovereign, convene a national conference which will bring genuine representatives of the people together at the conclave where we will decide on what kind of country we want, the new articles of association, and if it ends up being that Nigeria has actually won 250 states, then we will have decided. But I know that that is not going to happen if we have a genuine sovereign national conference. So draw up a true constitution for ourselves. So let's just throw out the idea of more states, when even the ones we have now are so unviable, can hardly actually meet their needs. It's not too long ago that state governments will be running cap in hand to Abuja, for money to pay salaries. So if any states think that they can survive on their own and they have a plan, the people, first of all, the people of the state have agreed that they want more states and they can be self-actualizing, self-governing, self-sufficient, maybe. But I bet you there's no state in Nigeria outside maybe Lagos, possibly Rivers, that can, on its own eternally generated revenue or whatever taxes it collects, will be able to run itself as a government. So we will only end up replicating bureaucracies, state commissioners, special advisors, ministries, all over the place, and all our resources end up going into servicing a civil service, a public service, but no genuine development. So that idea should be thrown out of the window, and we should be talking instead of restructuring Nigeria to a maximum of maybe 8 federating units. And then the powers at the center radically weakened so that the states can become the driving engines of Nigeria as a nation.
Obviously, more insights to this great country of ours, Nigeria, at 65 and how things can get better. Obviously, still a lot of work ahead for this country, our dear country, Nigeria, in terms of having the Nigeria of our dreams, where everyone is involved in what really makes the country better. Well, I'm sure Ruth will have a lot to also talk about. But before Ruth would come in, most times, when we talk about Nigeria, it's all about the men. Yes, but the women have also played crucial roles. But on this particular incident I'm about to talk about, you must permit me to also talk about the men, because the next filler we're going to have, it's about Mr. Nigeria. I'll be coming from Gombe. And let's have a look at that, and surely hope Ruth will not take me on this when we return.
Nestled in southern Borno State, Nigeria, a boast of a rich history dating back to the 16th century. The headquarters of Biu Emirate, it is home to the Bura people, the primary ethnic group. One of its sons that stand out as a notable citizen with exceptional love for his nation is Mr. Dival Wandali, affectionately known as Mr. Nigeria, who has demonstrated unwavering patriotic and nationalist pride both within and outside the country.
Exposure and challenges, that was what inspired me. Whenever you are outside the shores of this country, more especially Europe and America, you find out that, look, these people are so much in love with their country. And I said, why shouldn't we do the same thing? I was watching following the footsteps of this Tafawa Balewa, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and the rest of our patriotic Nigerians. I say, well, these are 3 tribes or 4 or 5, but they are united and they carry their country at heart. What happens to us, the young ones? Let us start something from somewhere. So that was what inspired me. I started gradually.
His love and adoration for Nigeria is evident in his unique gesture of painting all his belongings in national color of green and white, reflecting the Nigerian flag. From his house to his cars, furniture, investments, and household utensils, Mr. Nigeria's commitment to promoting national pride is inspiring.
You need to be here because you will see hundreds of people coming from all the villages. They know that this is a Nigerian house. When they come, even if it is a small pack of biscuits, you share it to whoever is here. You know, as we are going, young people were calling me Nigeria, Nigeria. It is because of that. They know me with the color, they know the house. Almost everybody in the town knows.
Mr. Nigeria's actions have earned him special recognition from the Biu Emirate, with Emir Alhaji Mustafa Umar Mustafa expressing pride in his dedication to community and national life as a true patriot. The Emirate notes that people from various places are drawn to Biu to interact with Mr. Nigeria due to his remarkable display of patriotism and sentiments for united, prosperous, just and egalitarian Nigeria. As Nigeria celebrates its 65th independence anniversary, it is fitting to honor individuals like Mr. Dibal, who embodies the value of patriotism and national pride.
Mr. Nigeria is a very kind man and a very nice man, because even through him, I've achieved a lot of things. He's a very straight and trustful man.
We need to publicize this to people that Nigeria is more important than an individual or a group of persons.
Born in October 1963, a proud native of Bura ethnic group, Mr. Nigeria is a graduate of medical laboratory sciences from Bulgaria in Central Europe. After serving for 35 years in General Hospital Biu, he meritoriously retired in 2022 but was retained by the Borno State government.
Okay, so I don't even know what to say, because talking about patriotism, Ayo, that is the true definition of patriotism. You said I shouldn't take you on that, but come on, Ayo, can't you just emulate small? I know you're not a green person. Anyways, It just shows that, people truly believe in Nigeria. People truly love Nigeria. You can look at the extent he had to go to, even his house. That's the one that blew my mind. And he deserved, the professors here were just saying that they don't even have words to describe what they're seeing there. And he truly deserves an honor. But I'd like to cross to Dr. Shoda. We had her earlier via Zoom. I'm sure she's still there. And Dr. Shoda, I want to imagine you were watching that report keenly. It talks about sacrifice for nationhood. Now, expanding it, to other strata of life. If we want to look at self-sufficiency for us as a nation to get to a point of self-sufficiency, there's a lot of sacrifices that demands, that needs to be made, even as a leader or you're a follower. And sacrifice comes with service of purpose. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. First of all, I have to say that Mr. Nigeria deserves a honor.
Yes.
In fact, I was so surprised, and for somebody to go that far in making sure that everybody knows that he loves Nigeria. There's something I want to say about Nigerians. When they were talking about Nigerianness, a lot of Nigerians, when they are out of the country, like my sister said there, they are better. They keep the rules and regulations of that country where they are. They queue, anywhere they are supposed to queue. And when you travel from here to like Heathrow, you see everybody queuing in the airport to go and get their passport stamped. But the moment we get into Nigeria, they will start jumping the railings and everything. Everything will just be different. You'll be wondering, what is the problem? Why is that so? Why is it that when we're in Nigeria, we behave differently? But when we are outside Nigeria, we are very well-mannered. So what is Nigerianness? Is Nigerianness double standard? Is it that, okay, we are Nigerians in Nigeria, well, anything goes. But when we are out of Nigeria, we have to conform with whatever they are doing there. So I believe that we have responsibilities as citizens of Nigeria. We ourselves need to look inward and know how to behave. For instance, we owe Nigeria civil responsibility. Nigerians will not like to buy made in Nigeria goods. They will not want it. When they go to markets or supermarkets or somewhere, they want to see goods that are imported. Even if they are imported from China, even if they are low standards, they buy them because they are imported. While we have our own made in Nigerian goods that we think are inferior, thereby killing the factories and all that. We should be able to be using our made in Nigeria goods. Shoes are made in Aba. Sometimes you go to Dubai and you buy shoes that are made in Aba back to Nigeria and wear them as made in Aba. There was a time I was told in Dubai market that these shoes are made in your country. And I was amazed. Trousers, shirts are made in Aba or there somewhere there in the east and taken out of this country and sold to us as made somewhere. Even the Aba people will put made in England or made in somewhere. And then we go there, we proudly buy them and bring them back into our country. Such behaviors are those things that we must stop. Then thinking about value, our children's moral values. I don't know what to say about it. If you go to TikTok, I was forced to install TikTok on my phone. I had to ask somebody to teach me what to do to remove all these things that I'm seeing in TikTok, because I see that Nigerians are doing just the worst things in TikTok. When you compare TikTok from China, what the children in China do, what they show in their TikTok, and what we see in Nigerian TikTok, it's amazing. I just wonder what is going on. And for people like us who have schools, mothers, are responsible for what is happening to their children at home. For instance, in Nigeria now, a lot of children cannot speak their mother tongue anymore. They don't speak Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa. Hausa is even still better. The Hausas speak a lot of their language. But you see the Yorubas, the Igbos, they come there and call, if you are Dele, you say your name is Dele. How can you say your name is Dele when you are Dele? So a lot of them don't speak their language. They don't like eating their, food. And I see on social media, white people from other countries talking about our food, talking about Nigeria culinary. Say Nigerian food is the best, jollof rice and egusi and all sorts of things. And you see them eating it. Yeah. But here in Nigeria, your children will say, this one will say, I don't eat eba. Another one will say, I don't eat this and that. All they want is fried rice, jollof rice, and chicken. All those things is caused by our women. Our women should train their children from home. You don't leave your children to go to school and expect the teachers to teach your children. I'm happy that NOA is coming to that, as you said earlier, bringing back our values. Yes, I'm very happy about that, because that is their job to do. And then they should extend them to schools, all schools, including private schools, because private schools are the worst, including private schools. So the citizens owe the country. Government, yes, government should deal with corruption. Government should deal with basic needs of the people, like health. When we come to health matters, I don't know what is happening in Nigeria. The hospitals are there, but the staff in the hospital, a lot of them are not well trained. They don't behave well with patients. The hospitals are there. You see the members of staff are there. And then by the time you get there, people die just because people are negligent. They just look at you. Death is nothing to them in hospitals in Nigeria. NOA should look out at that and look at what they are going to do about hospitals, and maybe begin to send people that will go and, whistleblowers in different hospitals, especially public hospitals. Then I know that the government also is lacking behind in educational facilities. We have the schools, many schools, but especially private schools. There are so many. The public schools have schools, but what is inside the school, the infrastructure, how are they? Are they okay for learning? Are our institutions very conducive for learning of children? No. Then we talk about women generally. If you compare our women, especially women are doing very well in other fields like the economy, banks, other private, they are doing very well. But when it comes to governance, we lag behind. We're far behind many countries. Many African countries, Rwanda, Senegal, those ones have quotas, about 40%, and it is in their constitution. So Nigeria, I'm glad we have started, talking about it, and I hope at the end of the day, there will be a quota set aside for Nigerian women in governance, in elective posts, in the parties, because even in the parties, you know that a lot of the parties, you hardly see chairman of a party that is a woman. I don't know, maybe I don't know now, but I know that I have not seen one yet. I've seen many women leaders, of course. I don't see men leaders. I see many women leaders. So why women leader? Why not just leave it and give them the proper spaces to occupy? So those are the type of things that I think we're lacking behind, that is making Nigerianness very difficult. That's why people say, don't let Nigeria happen to you, whatever that means. I don't really like that don't let Nigeria happen to you. What is Nigeria? Does it mean that when you are in Nigeria, you are in another world, and when you are outside and you are a Nigerian, you are in another world? That is the problem that I believe is happening here in Nigeria. We need to reset our mindset. We need to reset our mindset and think of Nigeria first, like Mr. Nigeria is doing. Think of Nigeria first. Let us say that, okay, this Nigeria is our own. We must make it better. We must put hands together with the government and make Nigeria better. It's not that, the government didn't do that. The government didn't do this. What about you? What have you done? And what are you doing? How are you training your children at home? How are you training the children at school? Is it the government that will now bring the teachers or become a parent and come to your house to train your children? No. You discover, just recently, I saw something on the internet. Some people were writing ICANN exam and they have people writing it for them. That is the type of thing that is happening in Nigeria that we must stop. So I'm saying that Nigerian citizens, we have a lot to do. We have a lot of rethinking to do. We have to assist the government, because the government alone cannot do all these things we are talking about. Even when it comes to security, what about intelligence sharing? I mean, a landlord has a house, people are in the house, and you don't know them. They come from nowhere. You see 2 today, 3, maybe 10 of them are living in one room, and you have not reported to your, maybe the local leader, maybe the KBAC or the emir or something. You have not reported that. Well, I rented a place to some people who they are new, but I'm seeing them coming, in numbers. We don't know who they are, so maybe they can come and profile them. So all these things are happening in the country. How are we going to support the government to help itself and help the citizens too? I think those things we should think about in our Nigerianness, to make sure that, okay, yes, we're Nigerians, we love our countries, we are patriotic, but there are certain things that we must also help in doing for the government. And the government also should also look into corruption, insecurity, and a lot of other things that is their own responsibility. Well, and the citizens also should make sure that they vote and vote right during voting to bring about good governance. That is the best thing we can do for our country, to be patriotic to our country, to serve our country the way we are supposed to serve our country. Come out and vote when you are supposed to vote. And then come out and advocate for things. Talk, speak out when you see things that are wrong. Speak out so that the government can take action. Those are the things that I think we should put in place. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Shoda. You've said a lot. You talked about patronizing made in Nigeria, and then you talked about what we can do for our nation and not what the nation can do for us, reflecting back on what a former U.S. leader, John F. Kennedy, said. Think of what you can do for your nation. Thank you so much, Dr. Shoda. We'll definitely connect with you again. Before I get to my professors here, we have to take a break. And immediately after that break, you know that our cultural nuances are interwoven. Adire and, of course, the tie and dye in Kano. You'll be seeing that coming back to back. Stay tuned.
The 1st, 1960, a new nation was born. Nigeria stood tall, raising her green and white banner of unity, hope, and freedom. From the early struggles of nationhood, through moments of triumph, challenges, and resilience, the Nigerian Television Authority has been there, telling our stories, preserving our history, shaping our voices, and bringing Nigerians together across every region, every home. The laughter, the tears, the milestones, and the dreams. As Nigeria celebrates 65 years of independence, we at NTA remain proud to be part of this remarkable story. Nigeria's journey is our story, and the story continues. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.
Nigeria are about to pull off a massive turnaround. Nigeria celebrating as African champions here in Morocco. They are winners of the WAFCON.
It is a great thing for a nation to have assets that are hope of today, tomorrow, and thereafter. It's just a joy to have you victorious and accomplished. Today, you return home as champions of Africa. We could not be prouder, and it cannot be more historic. Your victory represents more than accomplishment. It is a triumph of courage, determination, discipline, and consistency. You have inspired millions. Unasui, they prove that their dreams are valid and achievable.
Prevails our land where there's hope for all.
You inspired me too. You ignited our hope, and we will continue to encourage you, encourage the next generation and other generations after you. The dedication, thank you for your passion, and thank you for reminding us of the strength of the Nigerian spirit. Crucial time, crucial future. With this, Nigeria belongs to all of you, all of us. Our diversity is an asset if we know how to use it for our prosperity. Born of the same father, in the same house, except living in different rooms.
We're united.
We must promote unity, stability, and economic justice for every one of us.
Our land and for generations to come.
Nigeria's spirit is unyielding.
Generations to come.
And will never die. God bless you.
National Orientation Agency. Beyond economy, trade, and culture, the significance of Adire as an African textile brand could be described as a spiritual heritage of sorts, influenced by strong souls connections from generation to generation as a craft. Adire, coined from two Yoruba words, Adi meaning tie and Re meaning soak, connotes that cloths are tied and soaked in dye to produce beautiful fabrics. Adire is a cultural heritage of the Egba people in Kenta area of Itoku, in the ancient city of Abeokuta, Ogun State, southwest Nigeria. Historically, the origin of the brand is traced to centuries ago and handed over from generation to generation. But a woman became a true and legendary symbol of the Adire brand, Madam Iyabode Jojolola Shwetan, the second Iyalode of Egbaland, an energetic and industrious female leader in the kingdom in the mid-20th century. From her Kenta Itoku compound, created the indigo-dyed Adire using locally woven white materials called teru and elu dye extracted from elu leaf. Before her demise, 93 years ago, she produced a brand known as Arodudu indigo-dyed brand from these spots, still standing in her compound. To date, she passed this heritage to her descendants and relatives, including the Iyaloja of the Kenta Kampala Adire Market in Itoku, Abeokuta, Alhaja Shomodale Akamo.
Adire craft is a kind of trade that is profitable, a craft that boosts your status because there is no aspect of it that you choose to engage in that you would not be able to feed to satisfaction.
The craft of Adire making has become an evolving industrial phenomenon in terms of designs, materials, and specialized branches, creating employment opportunities for youth and the elderly.
Artificial intelligence can do everything, can give you designs and use it for any kind of... We use it now in Adire. That's the essence of the trend that Adire is now, presently.
We have people that use batik, people that are doing machine design, people that are doing tie and dye, that are creating design on the cloth, people that are selling white, people that use machine to sew it into ready-made, people that just take from where we are buying to here. So it serves as economic advantage for the people.
My mom is into this stuff, and this is where she sent me to school, like this Adire business. So I was like, oh, let me just go back into this thing. And trust me, today, I'm really, really happy that I'm part of people that are selling Adire, and it's yielding well for real.
The significance of Adire in the fashion and textile world is invaluable, especially in attracting tourists from across the globe who often make the southwestern region of Nigeria their choice destination to patronize the brand. The Adire brand is also a big deal as one of the national symbols, creating economic opportunities in the Nigerian fashion industry and across the globe.
When we are talking about SME, small-scale, medium enterprises people, you find majorly Adire people in it. Because, you know, this is a craft that deal with handmade craft. So we have a lot of people working in this industry, young people, even graduates. Different people are finding it interesting, and they are moving to different areas to work. And in the process, we are building the economy of a nation. And average Nigerians who are in this industry are okay and also contributing their own quotas for the development of the economy of this country.
Government at all levels are not relenting in exploring the potentials that abound in the Adire industry. as the federal government is creating an enabling environment while the state government is boosting infrastructure. For instance, Ogun State government made a policy which mandates public and civil servants to put on adire materials on Fridays.
You see government putting in a lot of interventions to ensure that, yes, this industry thrives. I know that a lot of banks are like BOI. They are not even in existence before, but now we have BOI, you have Nigerian Export Promotion Council and things like that. And every now and then, you see them coming to us to meet us that, okay, how do you want us to help you? How do you want us to assist you? These are government agencies and they are there. Fine, we still need more help in the areas of this accredited synthetic one that's all over, but nevertheless, government is trying and we still give it to them.
They are the ones that constructed our buildings, and we are very grateful for that. But we would also want them to help us to control the imports of the China adire. We don't want counterfeit adire. And we would also like that we have a cotton industry in Nigeria. I believe that having a cotton industry in Abeokuta precisely would help us to reduce the prices of our locally made adire.
Stakeholders say opportunities in the adire textile and fabric industry are enormous, hence concerted efforts are required in order to explore the potentials for national development.
There you have it. From the west to the north, you see the similarities even in our fabrics. Of course, in brotherhood will stand. It just shows the beauty in our diversity, but there's similarity interwoven in our cultural differences. So we have a guest, another guest joined us in the panel session here, Dr. Enya Ode. She's a broadcaster, a renowned broadcaster and development enthusiast, Lux Terra Leadership Foundation.
Absolutely.
She's the founder. Welcome,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Ode. I used to listen to you back then on radio. Her voice, oh, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And happy Independence.
Thank you. And it's my birthday.
And it's your
I'm so
birthday.
happy.
Oh, happy birthday. We're going to sing you happy. And we had a cake in the morning.
I know. I missed that.
Okay,
I
don't
missed
worry.
it.
We're going to make up for that?
It's fine.
Okay, so Professor Adeniyi, you know, Dr. Shoda was talking about patronizing made in Nigeria goods, and that, you know, boils down to the growth of our economy, which the president during his speeches broadcast this morning was very profound and optimistic, recording the growth we've seen in our GDP, 1.23%, compared to the projected 3.4% by the IMF. So what does this say to us in terms of national development, especially looking at how we can contribute to the growth of our economy when we do our part, you know, individually?
Absolutely, and this is very, very important, really. And that's why we also emphasize the soft parts, the soft mechanism that we can develop, the intangibles that are important to propel development anywhere in the world. And what is this soft mechanism? The attitude of the people. What kind of attitude, you know, do we develop in our approach to our identity as Nigerians? You know, at the moment, no doubt, a lot of us are still very neo-colonial. We are still very foreign in our orientation. We still believe in externalizing our hope, you know, exporting capital as a consequence of that, because we do not dangerously, we do not believe we are yet to start investing our faith, you know, in the future of this country. And of course, you probably may want to dispute this, but of course, we also know that is a fact. There's a sense of fear in quite a number of people, imagining that, or they are probably idealizing a kind of nation that will become eventually dysfunctional, eventually fragmented. And that's why people often want to think about what they call Plan B. Let me belong, let me have the passport of another country, or let my children go and school so place. You know, health-wise, you know, there's lack of trust in our system. Of course, we know there are practical reasons why people should be suspicious, but overall, you will see that there's a preponderance of tendency for the average citizen, most especially the elites, to export their hope. Now, in exporting their hope to even attitude, you know, frameworks are conditioned in a way that it looks foreign, such that they prefer foreign food, foreign attires, you know, foreign, everything about them appear predominantly foreign. And you also agree as well that even consumables, you know, some grocers, the very rich, for instance, often privilege foreign items, foreign products, much more than those locally produced. And why is this so? Sometimes you may not blame them. You will say, okay, they have their resources. How can the narrative be really changed? There are so many angles to it, and I have some fear that it may continue for some time if some of these things are not directly addressed. In terms of attitudinal change, you know, we cannot necessarily force it, but in terms of attitudinal change, that will be propelled or that will be initiated by leaders, government, as the case could be. One aspect of this, again, is for us to see leadership by example, and not necessarily in pronouncement, not necessarily in preachment, but in showing example of how do you want followers to be galvanized, you know. If they see that you are showing the right steps, of course they will follow that step. And of course, the other thing that also speaks to it is the question of our institutions. Somebody referred to it earlier that yes, in Heathrow people they remain on queues, you know, but by the time they arrive in Nigeria, the narrative is different. The only difference is law, implementation of law. We have practically the same laws, but what about implementation? Laws, you know, are scarcely implemented in this time, even though we have nearly the same laws with many of these foreign countries, particularly the United Kingdom, on ground of the fact that they colonized us. You know, in places where there are pretensions to implementation, you know, the more influential you are, the more able you are to navigate, to circumvent it. So it becomes also a problem. By the time the less powerful begins to see you, and then they are not galvanized, they are not moved, you know, to becoming committed to the Nigerian nation or to the causes that you are trying to project before them. And that's why, for me, I think that sometimes we talk about constitutional change, we talk about laws and more laws, law here, law there. We have more than enough to make us work as a nation.
Yes.
What matters is the level of execution, the level of implementation. And, of course, doing this simply means increasing our willpower, the willpower of the leaders, so that the soft aspects of life, the intangible things that you probably want to ignore, can now work in a dialectics to propel the hard aspects, which are these physical things that we keep identifying, rightly so anyway.
Thank you so much, Prof. Professor Ezelo, Prof has really stated a lot. Even aside the laws, Nigeria is also signatory to a lot of conventions we have. Domesticating some of this is quite a challenge. Implementation has been the bone of contention over time. Look at the narrative for the Nigeria that we are, the present state of Nigeria. If we want to look at growth, across different sectors for nation building, what is the perspective really going to be?
Yeah, because I think you have two lines of thought
yes.
now. So the second one I'm trying to tie to the first. But then talking about laws that, my colleague here, Professor, has also mentioned, yes, it's true that we have laws and that you may say our problem is not necessarily legal, lack of legal and policy framework. There are places where we could, of course, deal with reforms because some of them are also quite dated and begging for reforms because you see in other climes, even when they make law, they keep reauthorizing, to just bring it to, the currency of the law is also important. But then beside that is the efficacy and the issue of effective implementation, the accountability that we talked about. And when you're looking at international law, Nigeria under international law, of course, policy is still like a foreign policy on a shoestring. And if you're looking at Nigeria under international law, Nigeria is a compliant country, naturally, from what they've done. They want to be seen as also supporting and implementing international laws. And they've ratified many of those international laws in different aspects of life. But again, the problem persists because we have a system and a constitutional system and also part of our colonial legacy or heritage that we have dualist, we run a dualist system, not a money system, meaning that international law ratified does not automatically apply until it is domesticated or it goes through what we call in international law transformation or incorporation. And that hasn't happened, especially with regard to certain international laws or international human rights laws relating in particular to women and children have proven a major challenge in terms of its domestication. Take, for example, the UN Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or the Protocol to the African Charter on the Rights of Women in Africa, otherwise called Maputo Protocol, or the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, or even the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. But of course we have equivalent at domestic level because we have child's right law in almost all the states of the Federation. We have now the Violence Against Persons Act, but of course it doesn't really speak to maybe gender and equal opportunities. To that extent, we need to, and then there are also a constraint constitutionally because Section 12 says that even when you do that domestication, all the State Houses of Assembly have to get 2/3. They also have a role to play, and that has become a major constraint in terms of implementation of international law. So to ratify Executive Act and then to make sure it applies, of course, the legislature had to play a role, and then judiciary will need to interpret to ensure that justice is there for all. We as a people, because even talking about independence, talking about patriotism, talking about expectation, citizens' obligation, that includes obedience to law. And rule of law is a cardinal principle of democracy. And for us to have a democratic culture, to deepen our democracy as a people, we need to also obey the law. And we really have a lot of orientation and value clarification, because I really love that Mr. Nigeria, and I was wondering that such a person should be leading the campaign, the campaign on our Nigerianness and being a Nigerian, because it's important, because you see some people are not very passionate about their work, about what they do, and then about Nigeria and even its survival and they are not optimistic, they feel hopeless, but we have to be enthusiastic because enthusiasm drives the world. And if we lose hope, then it has a way that negative vibes affect also our development. But be that as it may, we need to ensure that even young people understand what it means to obey the law. That even within that, everybody is equal under the law, and that for the leaders, and no one is above the law. Because if you put traffic light here, somebody comes with a siren and a pilot car, they pass it. I've been in the U.S. in Washington during President Clinton's time. I was stopped just right at the traffic light, and that was when Mr. President of the most powerful country passed. You go to other countries, you see the way, then you look at the way the ostentatious lifestyle, we see the kind of breaking the laws, we see somebody was almost pushing me out of line, trying to board a flight, in Lagos, pass through security. And then I said, what? The way they jump, I was almost putting my laptops. And he said, oh, no, sorry, it's protocol. It's so they have a very important personality. And then you see how rude. Why didn't they create even a different lane for those very important personalities? Because how does it show us as a people? If you're just there and somebody come and push through a person who is already and says it. So for those who are doing that and enforcing that, they would definitely think that there are two different laws for two different people, and the rule of law and the law by the rulers, and they are all different. So we need to have a lot of reorientation so that people will understand and have faith in Nigeria, be patriotic, think in the best interest of Nigeria. If we all always think in the best interest of Nigeria and not in the best interest, oh, it's my turn, is my ethnic group, then we must enjoy. And then you don't see the unity that we need to preach, that diversity that we need to embrace, the dialogue that we need to have, acknowledging our differences is important. That's part of cultural heritage. Because if I go to the north now, I know already my specialty to eat from the north. I'll ask for tuwo shinkapa, I'll ask for the best. If I go to Europe, of course, I'm in Lagos, I say, please, moi moi, I already know beans. I know that it will be cooked in a particular way that I will enjoy it. So that will be my attention. So even that food alone, how have we built even that national unity around these things and celebrate it? So we need a lot of work in order to celebrate this. And then coming to the last question you asked me on
yes, what everybody can do collectively, in summary.
In summary.
Yeah.
So collectively, one, we have to believe in Nigeria, and we have to believe that Nigeria is destined to be great, and that we can all contribute our quota to making it great. And we have to also, speak out. If you see something, say something. Not necessarily that you think, okay, no, it's my person, so I cannot criticize, then I can tolerate. We need to be tolerant, generally, because I'm beginning to see we are not as tolerant, and we are now having these hate speeches, so much hatred, for one another. That love doesn't exist. We need to eschew those behavior. We need to also plead with the media to bring out this positive aspect, because media portrayal is very important. Since when did we celebrate inter-ethnic marriages that have been so successful? Since when did we celebrate how people through youth service maybe met the ones they married and they changed their lives? Since when did we celebrate neighbors who have lived and lived in peace, and they are from different ethnic groups? We need to find these things that unite us more. But above all, as we are doing this, we also have our legitimate expectations from our leaders. Absolutely. That if we pay tax, for example, that tax should work for us. That I should expect street light. That I should expect some security. I should expect protection. I should expect that the police responds to my, and treat me fairly. That fairness, inclusion is very important. Because I had Mrs. Dr. talks about inclusion and say woman leader. But again, she made also another statement about the place of woman. I think when it comes to family and family values, please let us know. It will take both men and a man and a woman, husband and wife, to bring up their children. The family is the basic unit of society. And if anything goes wrong in that place, then that's what we have. So please, it is not a job meant for women alone or wives alone. It is meant for both. Father needs to bond with children. Mother needs to bond with children. They have to work together to give us children that will take constructive role in society. We need that. We need to emphasize that. We need to emphasize inclusion. If inclusion means addressing certain complaints or certain people make, please do that. And that's why women need inclusion. We need inclusion that's 65 years. How come that women were there during nationalist movement? I can recall, Janet Merkel, who went to Lancaster House and was there part of drafting the Constitution of Independence. How come that in today's Nigeria, women still play a very dismal role, and we still have 5% and far below global average, and even far below more than 30 countries within Africa? So we need to look at that, and we need to ensure that governance works for all. Respect the Constitution to ensure that diversity, because our Constitution is beautiful. It's just that we have not. There are some aspects that need to be elevated to make sure they are legally binding, like Section 14.3, when he said that no one ethnic group should dominate. It knows what he's saying, because if you bring everybody together, and we recognize that diversity, equity, inclusion, that's part of social justice. That's part of building a nation that we can all take pride in, a nation that we can call our own. And I really love this, our national anthem, especially this, the one that was, the old one we had before at independence that our president brought back to life last year. Because you look at it, even ask God, God answered this, our one request, to build a nation where no man is oppressed, so that in peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed. Okay. What a prayer, and we need to say this powerfully, and really, really hope that we can get that nation where everybody is included, where nobody feels marginalization. And if that marginalization means restructuring Nigeria, then we have to do that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ezelo. You've said a lot. I'm just trying to pick some really critical aspects because Dr. Ode was just looking at you, keenly. You talked about who will pass on. How do the people really understand these policies, these laws? That brings us to advocacy. And then you also mentioned the role of media projecting the positives of our Nigerianness. Dr. Ode, you have been you've been in the media field for a very long time. And if we want to look at the way this information thrives, the way, because just one word could just mar everything and create that disunity among the people. How can the media play strategic role in knitting our fabric as a nation?
I think the point for me is for media personalities, those who are journalists and who work in the media, and those who are even commentators in the media, to actually see that this country belongs to all of us. Yeah. And have that heightened sense of patriotism to say, look, whatever I do here could actually affect everything, every aspect of this country. And that gives us a sense of responsibility to say, look, we must put in the best. And in putting in the best, it's to tell the truth, it's to be objective, it's to, be accountable and also to be held accountable. It's to actually put the right information out there. Because at the end of the day, if Nigeria burns, the media will burn with it. Yes. Right? If anything happens, we as journalists, as broadcasters, as media personalities will also be affected. So it's like doing things in one's enlightened self-interest. To ensure that, look, I must put in my best, I must do the best I can to ensure that this country works. Because if Nigeria does not work, we'll all be affected. So it's in my interest if Nigeria works. And of course, I will be the biggest loser if we don't work. So in the little spaces we find ourselves, putting out the right messages, ensuring that this message of unity and oneness and uniting ourselves even in spite of our diversity, putting out the right messages out there always makes a difference. And another point I'd like to put out is I love what the National Orientation Agency has been doing lately. I think we watched one of the adverts about our unity and just bringing us together. And I completely love what the messaging that is coming out from the NOA, especially in recent times, because this is what we have been advocating for. the NOA and all other agencies should actually be at the forefront of bringing us together, right? So we can begin that reorientation. Somebody talked about a mindset shift. Now, that mindset shift can come when we all speak with one voice, speak as one, because at the end of the day, all of us want a better Nigeria.
Indeed.
As young people, as the elderly, as people who are with disabilities, whoever it is, we want a better Nigeria. If we all had a better Nigeria, nobody would want to jackpot. Nobody would want to go anywhere, you know, which is the trend that we are seeing right now. But it's for all of us, really. And I think it's one of the adverts that says, all hands must be on deck. Every single one of us must put our hands on deck to see, what can I do? It's not about what the other person can do, not about what President Tinubu can do, but what can I do to actually make Nigeria better? If all I have to do is obey the traffic lights, if all I have to do is ensure that I have a clean environment and encourage people to have clean environments as well, if all I have to do is to spread the right message, yes, a lot is going on that would definitely bring us down. But I like the message she mentioned, the word she mentioned, which is hope. I mean, having that glimmer of hope that, look, whatever it is, we are going to get past this. And we're going to work towards getting past this. Not to say we're going to get past this and everybody sits down, but we work towards it, towards getting past the difficult times and the difficult turns, you know, that we are facing. So these are some of the things that we need to begin to advocate, whether it's on our radio stations, whether it's on our TV stations, wherever it is, on newspapers, on blogs, on social media. That's another space, you know, to talk about. On
Indeed.
Social media, the point is, look at Nigeria as your project, and everything should be done in the best interest of each and every one of us. If we realize that we all have a stake in this, we'll do better.
Indeed, especially when that space, talking about the social media, it's unregulated, so everybody can just throw in whatever they deem fit. But there's one, when you talked about the role the TV, the radio, even the prints can play, I know for sure one thing the NTA stands for, it's national interest, because that is sacrosanct to nationhood. We'll pick up with the conversation, but of course, you know, for a nation to succeed and of course propel towards the direction of growth, there must be laws binding. Talking about constitution, our next report has everything to do with the constitution. How well do you know your constitution?
The evolution of the Nigeria constitution depicts the landmark events leading to the country's sovereignty. It contains the fundamental and organic law which establishes the institutions and apparatus of government, thereby defining the scope of governmental sovereign powers and guarantees individual civil rights and civil liberties. The evolution of the Constitution has two phases, namely colonial and post-colonial, starting from 1914 Constitution, which was the initial step that amalgamated the northern and southern protectorates into a single entity. The Clifford Constitution of 1922, which was considered the first substantive constitution, introduced the first electoral system in Nigeria, with the first election conducted into the Legislative Council with 4 slots, 3 for Lagos and 1 for Calabar. The Richard Constitution of 1946 divided Nigeria into 3 regions, comprising North, East and West, thereby laying the foundation for regionalism and granted molecules of autonomy to the regions.
Now, the Richards Constitution is an improvement on the Clifford Constitution, in that it made the West African Court of Appeal the final court for the colonies, the British colonies in West Africa. It also entrenched the high courts. At that time, there was yet no Supreme Court.
Making laws to guide the regions. But they were regions that time. They were based on regional, and created more inclusive political system, which was initially limited during the Clifford Constitution. Now, in this constitution, that time it was only the rich landowner or property owner that were allowed. Now, it was expanded. So people who have the political interest can also contest for election to be a member of council.
Mafeking Constitution of 1951 was the first constitution that was more homegrown despite still being a product of the colonial era. It provided for a federal legislature called the House of Representatives with 136 elected representatives with 6 ex-officio members and 6 nominated by the Governor General. It also provided for regional legislatures that could make laws for their regions. The demerit noticed in Mafeking Constitution brought about the Lexington Constitution of 1954. This was the last pre-independence constitution, which was the culmination of constitutional conferences. The Independence Constitution of 1960 came into effect at independence, establishing Nigeria as a parliamentary federation with the Queen of England as the ceremonial head of government.
On this memorable day, as you assume the heavy responsibilities of independence, I send my good wishes for a great and noble future. It is with a special pleasure that I welcome you to our Commonwealth family of nations. May God bless and guide your country throughout the years to come. It is now my duty and privilege to hand to the Prime Minister of the Federation, as the representative of the people of Nigeria, the constitutional instruments embodying the independence of the Federation of Nigeria.
Now, this independent constitution gave Nigeria full self-rule, introduced democratic governance, allowed Nigeria to control their political affairs. All those things that were the merit of the 1954, they brought them in, gave us, created regional government with autonomy, but established a multi-party system for Nigeria. Those were the major outlines of the merits of the 1960 Constitution. And so it came in, but there was still some demerit in that Constitution. And that's why you see it didn't last more than about 3 years. Now, the Queen remained the head of state. And then they later gave us a prime minister.
Independence was declared in 1960, and the Parliament, the British Parliament, bequeathed to us an independence constitution, the features of which is within recent memory, and a lot of people will be familiar with it. But what it basically did not do was to disentangle us from the apron strings of the UK government, which is, it maintained the Queen as the titular head of government. It maintained the Queen as the final authority for governance in Nigeria, while you had a prime minister who was elected by parliament to govern over all of Nigeria. And the regions had their regional premiers. The East had its premier, the West had its premier, and the North, the Southerner, as premier. Again, the last final court for adjudication was really the Privy Council. And so the Supreme Court of Nigeria, because we were still technically a dominion of the British government, the Queen had the Privy Council, which is a Queen's Court for colonies, had the final say on all appeals that emanated from our Supreme Court.
Under the Republican Constitution of 1963, Nigeria became a fully sovereign republic, with the Queen of England no longer the head of state, with the Supreme Court replacing the Privy Council as the highest court of appeal. The 1979 Constitution changed the political trajectory of Nigeria with a significant shift by changing Nigeria's system from parliamentary system of government to a more centralized presidential one.
From 1979, the The presidential constitution came into effect, and it was a new ball game. All power, I mean all, was concentrated in the president. And you could not take him out until after 4 years, except by impeachment. There were also other detailed rules providing checks and balances, providing a strict separation of powers, providing for an entrenchment of the rule of law, and also an independent judiciary. It on paper looked to be a perfect document. Hence, with the developments, we were surprised that the Constitution did not last more than 4 years.
The 1999 Constitution, which is the subsisting one, maintained the presidential system of government with bicameral legislature at the federal level, with unicameral legislature at the state and local government levels. It established the National Judicial Council and state joint local government account. The Constitution is currently undergoing the process of its amendment to make it meet the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians.
Indeed, and Professor Ezelo, you were just, monitoring that report keenly because as a senior advocate of Nigeria, I'm sure you have a lot of perspective to share regarding the ongoing review of the Constitution. Now, while you do that, I also like for you to look at gender issues in the country.
Thank you so much. Yeah, of course, I'm involved as a Nigerian, as a constitutional lawyer as well. In the constitution review, and have been, for quite a while, and not just in Nigeria, but other emerging countries, including other African countries, and supporting them to write their constitution or to amend their constitution. In Nigeria, of course, we are still amending the constitution because the very basic question and how it emanated has not answered the legitimacy question. But we know, of course, it's the legal document, it's the ground norm, it's the supreme law of the land, and we are all bound by it. But of course, when you talk about resonating with the people, I once conducted a research around the country, and you go to market, that was about 50 years ago. And then people will say, oh, no, the Constitution I remember is 1960 Constitution. I say, how come? It's Independence Constitution that you remember. You don't remember the 1999 Constitution. But again, you know how the military gave us this Constitution. And this is also part of the problem that the areas that needed to really respond to the aspiration of people. Take, for example, the preamble. If you say we, Nigerian, people say, when did we gather to give ourselves this Constitution? Is it not the Armed Forces Ruling Council that signed this off, the military? And then if you also talk about that, some will say, of course, it doesn't even include men and women, and that inclusion and social justice is lacking. But there are key areas of reforms that have been thrown out, even by the last national public hearing by the House of Representatives. The issues around proportional representation, and don't just see it as a special seat for women, but it's also beyond that because it's about representation. And we know now that Nigeria is trailing behind more than 35 countries in Africa, even with some having 60-something to 40-something. And then those that have passed 30% in Africa, and that's 55 countries, are more than 30. And Nigeria is, of course, lagging because they have 5%, which is below 26.5% global average. When it comes to that, and that's for elective position. When it comes to appointed position, Nigeria is still below the recommendation of Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. And this year marks 30 years since Beijing World Conference on Women. And we're still talking about a declaration, a resolution that countries, including Nigeria, that willingly participated, had agreed on, not being implemented. Of course, there is the issue of state police, for which I personally endorse 100%. Yeah, people have their fears. Their fears are not unfounded, but I don't think we are using the instrumentality of law, not just because I'm a law professor or I'm a senior advocate of Nigeria. We are not using instrumentality. I know people, the fear is, and people say, it's lack of accountability. If people know, if you're a state governor, you will finish your tenure. you'll be held accountable. And we can actually make that law that even certain abuse of office, they will also face the criminal charges. And then we try to create independency around that state police, you know, to the extent tenured office for the police chiefs, then we can make progress. There are issues around state agitations, there are issues on local government, there are issues for judicial reform, and the justice ecosystem need the kind of reform that will enhance justice delivery. Because actually there is huge unmet justice needs of Nigerians. Every day I wake up dealing with cases, I go to bed dealing with cases, and I'm waking up dealing with cases. And even these days, even including lawyers, are also looking up to you, also as senior advocate, to help them and to save them from their own challenges. So the unmet justice need of Nigerians need to be addressed, because invariably it makes them unhappy being a Nigerian. Because if you feel you can't walk into police station, report a matter, and police respond, especially when it has to do with gender-based violence. And they tell you, oh, they trivialize it. It could be rape. They are not willing to go and arrest the culprit, and they can tell you they don't have any money. You know, that's part of why I say let state police be, because governors have been spending on security, and then there is issue of security vote that takes huge amount, is unappropriated, as far as I'm concerned, is unconstitutional, and they keep taking money there. Let them put it to a budget we can see transparently, and then for this, for arrest, for this, every DPO, every police station gets their budget. We need to move on to that. There is issue agitation of state creation. But of course, and that if that will assuage, especially in terms of equality of state, in terms of true federalism, what it means, then we need to do it. Local government, yes, it is a government that works closest to the people, but time also to question its structure in Nigeria. And coming to women, women have suffered a lot in this country. And I want to say that women are part of democracy. I mean, they are part and parcel of even fight for the democracy we're enjoying today. So we must recognize women's right to participate in the government of their country. The opportunities that are bound in Nigeria, which I believe if we're harnessing, we must make sure that that equity exists, that there is equitable distribution in the economic sector, in the informal sector where women play a lot of role, educationally, that they're also there, that in terms of appointing position, that we can also put them there. I believe it can help to raise the quality of leadership. It can also help to reduce corruption, because women wear the shoe. Even now, I'm this professor, that, internationally this, that, but I know the prices of every food material in the market. I know the price of, and then I'll know that how, if I can't afford it, if I'm finding it difficult to afford, what about other people that are much, much lower than me and much junior staff? How are they coping? So we need to take this into account, that we cannot develop this country without participation of both gender. And then we have to enforce laws that will protect women from violence, especially sexual and gender-based violence. If that means running specialized courts, which we are beginning to see emerge, we need that. Poverty wears a woman's face. There are many headed households that are women, and women who are widows, they are the ones who are providing for their family. Yet they especially when they are in rural area, they carry the burden of food insecurity, and they have little or no support, and they are threatened even in the farms. Even the farm, they don't own the farmland, and within that they face all kinds of violence. And some of them are kidnapped, some are raped, and so we need to look into this and make sure we have a response, a system that responds, and that also the country recognize the contribution of women in nation building, because that is important.
You know, I feel your passion, Professor Joy Ngozi Ezielo, SAN. There's a lot, you know, that has to be harnessed going forward based on your recommendations and, of course, thoughts you have shared with us. But, of course, Nigeria, they say, is work in progress. And I know that part of the interventions, when you mentioned the women were the face of poverty, there's a social investment program by the present administration that we're hoping it's been sustained, and we're hoping even after this time, after this administration, it continues. That's the legacy we want to see as a nation. We want to thank you very much. We're made to understand you have an appointment to catch, so we have to let you go.
Thank you.
She is the former Commissioner for Gender and Social Development, Enugu State, and of course, former Dean, UNN. She's a whole lot, wearing different feathers on her cap. Well done, Prof. We want to, appreciate you and wish you a happy Independence anniversary celebration, because as a Nigerian now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We should celebrate our independence.
Absolutely.
I'm waiting. I would have loved to eat my jollof rice as independence.
Your jollof rice will come to you on your way out. Don't worry. Okay, so Ayo Deji, let's cross to you with your guest there, who has been so patient following the conversation here. But I hand the baton to you.
Yes, thanks so much, Ruth. Myself and Ogaga here, Dr. Ogaga here, we've been having some very interesting conversation behind the scene, and I think we'll keep that in the wraps and then bring it out gradually as the program unfolds. But interesting conversation from your corner there, and thanks for coming back to us again. I think we shouldn't start our conversation now, because I've been told right there at the Center of Excellence, my colleague Amaka is ready to bring us into the lifestyle this moment in Lagos, particularly the mood of Nigeria at 65. Amaka, what's going on there?
I'm right in front. It's very
standing at some issues with the audio of Amaka standing right there at the National Theatre in Igomu, Lagos. I'm sure we'll be able to re-establish contact with her. Surely now we can have a conversation in the studio, Dr. Ogaga. Right there, Prof, I'm talking about the need for Nigerians to believe in the Constitution, particularly the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. But unfortunately, sometimes those who are supposed to protect and stick to the constitutions have used this instrument as a viable means of oppression. Hence, most of those people who are supposed to be protected are usually oppressed by it. And that takes me to the question, with Nigeria at 65, how do we get the larger population, the largest subset of our population, to believe in this constitution, even though there is a big call that it should be amended to at least capture all interests?
Thank you very much. Let's admit that, in general, the ordinary citizen does not really know all the laws.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, even a lawyer does not know all the laws by heart. The lawyer is simply someone who is trained to know the broad framework of the laws, the principles behind them, whether in tort, in criminal law, land law, evidence, or the various branches. But when a particular issue arises, has the capacity to go into the law, analyze the law, interpret it, and advise accordingly. So the fact that we have a beautiful constitution may not necessarily be something that the ordinary citizen knows. They will feel the impact of that beautiful constitution in their lives. So we really need to look more at the governing elite, those who are actually supposed to know the law and enforce it and implement it. Now, why do I say this? If we look at the law alone, even the 1979 Constitution, which midwifed the so-called Second Republic, it was good. If we actually adhere to it, we'll go a long way. But it had its many defects. And then the 1999 Constitution even has the additional defect of being an imposition, so to speak, being a military document. But however beautiful or that might be, we've just been skirting around the question of true federalism, which not any of these other constitutions other than the independence one actually guaranteed. Because the moment regional governance was destroyed, the moment true federalism was destroyed through the 1966 coup, we stopped having a constitution that could respond to the genuine needs of the country as a multi-ethnic, multicultural, diverse, immensely diverse country. So our starting point is to get a constitution that actually represents the yearnings and aspirations of the Nigerian people, that we deal with the fundamental issues of nation building that we have. Now, take, for instance, the exclusive legislative list, which confers literally all the real powers of governance in the federal government, which is an anomaly because in a federation, typically, it is the units, the federative units, that define the powers of the center. Now we have it the other way around, where the center actually thinks of itself as owning everything and donating gratuitously, benevolently, powers to the federative units. So which is the head, which is the neck, which turns which? So I think to say that the people must know the law, we have to be sure that the laws are the right kind of laws in the first place. So our starting point now, if we really are serious about nation building, is a constitutional response to the genuine needs of the people. And we can only get that through a sovereign national conference where the people freely come together and agree on the kind of nation they want and what the powers of the center must be. How many, and if the states, if we agree, like I said, 1,000 states, okay, we've agreed, but those 1,000 states must be autonomous. They must be able to meet their needs. They must be able to, they must be viable. They must not depend on the center. And that brings in the question of derivation, because you cannot have a federal government that controls all the resources and only grudgingly concedes a little to the states, to the federative units, to meet their needs. So this is where I think the basic problem is. And then secondly, we seem to have taken it for granted that the presidential system of government is what we must have. But we forget that we started with the prime ministerial system, which in my view is actually more flexible, in my view cheaper to operate, and in my view respects our diversity without trying to impose an artificial unity, which we never achieve, which in a presidential system only ends up being the cry of marginalization by literally every ethnic group. But with the prime ministerial system, you are only going to be elected by your constituency. The party that has the governing majority will form a government on its own. If it cannot, it does not attain the level of forming a government on its own, it goes into coalitions with other parties, which means there's always going to be a give and take. But I don't have to campaign around the whole country because I want to be president of Nigeria, which makes the monies, the cost of election too humongous, for us, makes it unaffordable for, we'll be talking about women and their non-participation. It is part of the process that because it is so expensive to run the presidential system, as one factor, I'm not saying that's the only factor, that women are automatically already handicapped beyond the disabilities already have being women economically, speaking. So I think there are a lot of things we still need to talk about to give ourselves a genuine constitution. I'm glad that in spite of all this, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has actually done two things. One, local government autonomy, which is something that will have been on the top burner of, that will be on the top burner of any constitutional conference. And then two, power generation. States can now generate independently their own power. And then, so if we cannot get a sovereign national conference right away, but it carries on this momentum of gradually, at least, devolving more powers to the federative units, I think we might just manage to get somewhere where the Constitution, maybe by this piecemeal amendment, begins to approximate what we really want. But we need that imprimatur of the people actually saying, we, the people, having enacted and given unto ourselves this Constitution. It has to be done, it has to be performed, it has to be seen to have been done by the people, and therefore have a Constitution that really responds to the developmental needs of the country and positions Nigeria to take its place in the Committee of Nations as the leader of the black world and as a co-equal leader of the rest of the world.
Well detailed, well said, and we just hope for brighter days in terms of feasibility of these being implemented so that we can actually achieve Nigeria of our dreams. Now I'm told reliably that Amaka is back right there at the National Theatre in Igomu. So bring us up to speed, Amaka.
Very much for joining us. Now named the Wole Soyinka Center for Cultural and Creative Arts, and right here the group in green uniforms and making chants all over the place. There are also people setting flags, the Nigerian flag, and it's calm. So, but let me tell you briefly about this national edifice standing behind me. The National Theatre was built in 1976, and it's played host to the famous Festac 77 in 1977. It was built by the then military head of state, General Olusegun Obasanjo, and it's been here all the years. But in 2021, there came a collaboration between the then government and the private sector intervention in the tune of 22 billion naira. And that's rehabilitation of the National Theatre has been concluded, and we're expected to see the President of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who will be here, GCF, I will be here to commission the National Theatre any moment from now in company of other dignitaries on this 65th anniversary of Nigeria's independence. It's a historic day, I must say. And talking about the purpose of this edifice, it's going to have a huge purpose. We know that, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, the creative sector contributed more than 900 billion naira in 2024 to the economy. And of course, it's so important that the government creates an enabling environment for that sector to thrive. And that's what we've seen here. For this place is going to serve as a venue to foster growth of that creative sector. As this building you're seeing here has a lot of space to accommodate a large number of people that will converge from all parts of the world to witness events that will foster growth of the creative sector. In here, I was told that right inside the building, you have over 4,000 seater hall, and you have exhibition stands, we have conveniences, we have dressing rooms, and so much to accommodate any event that's going to deepen the creative sector for national growth and the economy of the nation.
Well, Amaka, thanks for that update. Standing right in front of that piece of architectural design, one of its kind in the world. I mean, only a few architectural designs come close to that. Seated there in the heart of Lagos, and would surely expect more updates once we have the feelers that the President, Commander-in-Chief, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be coming there to actually reopen it for use again, for it to continue its contribution to the economy. Amaka, thank you so much. All right, also for those of you out there, sincere apologies for some cracks in the audio while Amaka was actually giving us some details from the Wole Soyinka that's been renamed as the Wole Soyinka edifice there in Lagos for it to come back. And Ogaga, surely that is one place I'm sure you've been many times, and for some time people really came up with this this analogy that if we really want to diversify our economy, and reduce the concentration on crude oil and gas, there are lots that can be generated from the digital economy to the creative economy to the marine and blue economy. And surely this, for Nigeria at 65, is another take, isn't it?
Of course, of course. I mean, it's even so clear. I don't think anybody doubts it. You know, the role of culture all over the world. In fact, it's not even just what we get from it economically. What you get from it in terms of projecting the image of a country is immeasurable. We all know about Hollywood, right? And now we have Nollywood. We also know Bollywood, the Indian film industry. Before making the calculations as to how much in terms of money, naira and kobo, they contribute, you think in terms of the cultural capital that they create an immense cultural capital for the people. So if a lot of our youth, if I included myself, ever before I went to America, I've known more about America from watching films, from reading books, than before I even stepped foot there. So there's a way in which when you get there, you're already looking forward to the things you took with you from what you've read and seen, and looking forward to seeing them. It is the same with us. So, but the fact that the creative economy contributed about 900 billion, which is getting close to $1 trillion, is already immense. And that has hardly tapped the full potential of what the cultural, creative, digital economy can do. So it goes without saying. We don't need to debate that. Question is, how much is the government doing? How much infrastructural facilities are there to aid them? Young people who have great ideas, how can they be encouraged? Now, in the president's speech, he addressed that. I'm glad he actually had a specific address for the youth, in that area. So we can only hope that with the fact that the National Theatre, which became moribund, became an eyesore, what had to be, have been the symbol of Nigeria's immense creativity, become an eyesore, has now been revived, should only point us in the direction of more being done. And we now have a specific ministry for creative economy. So I think, and when it comes to digital economy and our youth innovation, their innovative spirit, their ability to go into areas that their parents never thought of, I know that is already given. So I think the future is great. We only need to have a president, a federal government, and state governments that realize the importance of that sector and devote the requisite attention, to it. And it's not even only just in the entertainment industries. We're talking about culture generally. So it's theater, performances, it's writing, the publishing industry, and the whole gamut of what amounts to creative enterprise. I think Nigeria has a lot.
Okay, now that you've talked about the lots of technological innovation and enterprise with the skill sets that we have in Nigeria, I was going to ask you, how come it gets difficult on a daily basis to attract the youth, in quotes, to some of those trades, or let me say crafts, that Nigeria, was renowned for way back before independence and the early years of independence. We saw the adire and the batik, and we saw testimonies of people saying this has made them, this was what they used to send them to school. But nowadays, everyone seems to want to tilt towards the side of the digital economy, creating content, occupying the social media space. And like my late father once said, the Adigun in the village that wants to eat bread must send some good tubers of yam to town. But if we don't really encourage these people to go into some of these creative subsets, and how do we really get the production and the manufacturing world functioning?
I think probably one area we need to address is how shall I put it? It is impossible to attract the youth to systems of production that seem to them to be too menial, that seem to be outdated, that seem to them to not have what you would call the steez. I think that's what the steez factor, the cool factor. So anybody who's going to think in terms of attracting the youth to these more traditional areas of the creative industry are going to have to look for a way to modernize, the process. I think on their own, some are already doing that, because if I heard correctly, it is not only just the traditional tie and dye now that is going on. There are those also focusing on only the design, even machine design, if I heard correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's an area where the youth will excel. The creativity that comes from digital economy, from even AI to generate designs, graphic design, because you don't just tie and dye. It comes with designs, patterns. So they can still be involved. Then marketing, promotion, advertising. There's so many other ways. So if we limit it to only the dyeing pits, to the dyes, and so on, we might not be able to attract the youth, which is not to say that there are no youth involved. Actually, there are youth involved if we search deeply. But the thing is to give it the cool factor, modernize the processes. It even goes down to when we talk about infrastructure, it is the basic necessities you need to produce. So if it is providing tools that are more acceptable, that can ease the drudgery, the labor of doing the work, whether it's in agriculture or even in the batik and adire system, it's just basically bringing it up to date, make the process more, how shall I say now, acceptable to the younger generation.
So, Dr. Ogaga, two key words for me. It's easy to do if you have the steez. Well, surely the steez will be attractive enough. Hopefully, it will be attractive enough to draw them closer to some of these so-called traditional craft and means of businesses back in the day. Let's cross over to the other side where Ruth Agwele, surely with some steez as well, will give us the next set of discussion on Nigeria at 65.
Ayodeji, I don't know whether that's disease. I'm looking for it. Okay, so thank you for crossing back here. And Mr. Ogaga said a lot in the diversity, diversifying our economy, the blue economy, the creative economy, especially the digital skills, which there's been a fundamental shift in the present administration to see that young people harness their skills, or rather harnessing the skills that young people can tap into so that they can meet global and local demands. I'd like to cross now to Dr. Shoda. She's been so patient. Dr. Shoda, of course, we're winding down this conversation, so it will be appropriate to get your final thoughts. But while you're giving us that, as we reflect on the journey of nationhood, 65 years and counting, let's look at ways, each and every one of us can harness opportunities abound, because the opportunities, are limitless for us in the country. Dr. Shoda.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the last speaker was talking about adire making and how AI can assist and how the youth can be part of adire making. The truth is that the youths are involved. If you go to Abeokuta, I'm from Ogun State. I live in Ogun State. If you go to Abeokuta, you will discover that the people doing the batik, actually, the tie and dye is the adire. And batik is the one that needs the graphic thing, all those things that they cut out to make the batik. Most of them are youths. They're young people. Young people that are there. When you go to the market, you see them, a lot of them. You can make whatever you want to make. You give them the design, and they will make them. Most of them are the youth. And something I have discovered here in Ogun State is that we even have a cottage industry where they make adire. The adires that come from China, they have destroyed the sales of our own adire, which is better, which is cotton material, and which lasts longer. With these ones that shine a lot, and then they are very light, and they are mixture of polyester and cotton. So somebody was saying that government should, maybe do a law that will stop this importation of these adires into the country, or make it more competitive, maybe by taxing them more, because these adires are actually the ones that are making our adire makers in Abeokuta not sell their adire. So youths are very, very involved. If you go to Abeokuta, you will see the new market. There's an adire market, very huge adire market in Abeokuta. And most of the people there, they are young people. They are young people. They are the ones that are making the batik. Then to the government, I believe that in making laws and making sure that these laws are followed, government, especially politicians, in their first tenure, there's always a problem. There's a problem in the first tenure because the leaders have no lever. They don't have the willpower to do the things they really want to do to help Nigeria. So they keep most of the things they want to do. They allow the country to suffer a little bit for 4 years because they want second term. It's not that they come and then start doing what they need to do, putting things straight, making sure that things happen, corruption is taken care of, the police are doing the right thing, and all those people are doing. No, because they have to please those institutions. They have to please certain institutions to so that they can get second term. I think the government should start, thinking of, well, this term, if it is the only time I'm going to have, let me have it and let me do the right things. Or maybe they should start having one single term of some years. I think it will be better for us in Nigeria. Well, because I will soon leave, I think we, as the citizens of Nigeria, we should renew our own patriotism. We should renew it. And collectively, we should have commitments to our nation. Let us work together to build a peaceful and responsive country. That is what we need to do. We should collectively build a responsible country, and that is just and right. That is what we should have as our own contribution to the government. And I think that's all I have for today. And if you will excuse me,
okay.
I've been doing other things here while you were talking. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Larabasho, that we really appreciate your contribution, on the program, and continue the good work you're doing in your own space. Well done. We want to appreciate you. She is the president of the African Regional Council of Women and member board of the International Council of Women. Thank you very much. Okay. She's gone. All right. So, Professor Adeni, it's a day even after this moment, this platform here, we must, recount our strides and also put check and ways of how to address our challenges. But one thing is very important: if we don't harness what we have, then how can we move forward? Human capital development is one aspect that has been much talked about over time. And we've seen federal government interventions in the aspect of diversifying economy, and also interventions to project initiatives that will benefit the youths, because of course they are the bedrock of the nation. So what would you recommend?
Well, I'm not sure we're doing badly in the area of creating avenues, for the honing of skills, and for, capacities and abilities to be germinated. At the moment, we have more than enough institutions of higher learning. We also have technical schools, we have polytechnics, we have more than enough tertiary institutions generally. So what it means is that we also have vocational institutions as well. And we're having a situation where private individuals are becoming more interested in different levels of education. And apart from expanding the space, it has also contributed in growing the quality. This is irrespective of the interest of people or the preference of people, sections of people, the elites, once again, to be more interested in foreign facilities. This will probably continue for a long time until we begin to create a narrative that is much more inward-looking, perhaps through precepts, perhaps through some level of enforcement, and of course, maybe more particularly through advocacy. Then we can begin to say, okay, we're going to be less interested in foreign facilities and grow our interest in the local environment. So, be that as it may, the other thing to be concerned about is maybe regulations, and our interest to also implement those regulations towards growing the quality of these institutions, because there are so many inadequacies, so many limitations around us that can make us compromise the integrity and the credibility of the education process, and they are really increasing. Government recently came up with some measures, no doubt, at the level of asking candidates perhaps to submit a thesis before NYSC mobilization. And so many other things that I've seen from the Ministry of Education. Commendable measures, no doubt, but again, we have to be mindful of execution. But overall, I'm not sure Nigeria as a whole is doing badly in terms of the development indices, but the question we need to continue to ask is, why are we slower than we ought to be doing? Our pace should be faster than this, no doubt, even though we are steady on the track of growth and development. But the advocacy, the agitation should be that we can increase our pace much more than we are doing for so many reasons. One of it is that there were countries that we were on the same level with before that have outpaced us. Dubai is already the example. So many other countries in Asia are also examples. So if they were able to do it, why not us? Which means that there's an opportunity for us to improve. And the second one is for us to have some level of commitment on the part of the citizens, not just on the part of the leaders. Because oftentimes we are blaming the leaders enough. Yes, we'll also continue to blame them. Yeah. But we also have to look backwards at us, the followers. What are we doing to encourage the leaders to do the things that we want them to do? I'm sure that's why NOA, that my colleague referred to earlier on, is coming up with the charter,
the values charter.
So that we are asking the leaders to be much more responsible, much more proactive. Us, the citizens, we also have our own obligation.
Okay.
So together we can have a synergy, a commonality of purpose to propel the nation to the next level, as the case could be.
Indeed, I love the word synergy. It's very, very important. Dr. Ode, you are part, will I put you in the civil society? Yes, fantastic, because of your the foundation you with Lux Terra. They also play a very vital role, especially when you're talking collaborative efforts, supporting interventions or initiatives by the government. How can that be really harnessed and also propelled?
I think it all goes back to what I said earlier about everyone having that enlightened self-interest, that if this works, we'll all gain at the end of the day. And civil society has a role to play in advocacy, in speaking up, in supporting the government in different ways to ensure that the right things are done. I like the point Prof made about the citizens, because sometimes, it's so easy for us on this side to look up and look at the leaders and say, you guys are not doing these things right, what's going on there, and not look inwards. But we have our roles to play, and civil society helps definitely to get that synergy on. But it's not for civil society working at, different poles or at across each other. We actually need to work together, because at the end of the day we want a better Nigeria. For the young people, I'm very passionate about young people. I work with young people, and I know the burden it is, to make someone actually believe in this country, to believe that something great can come out of it. But if we begin to have that mindset shift where young people are concerned, where everybody really is concerned, would see, a better country. And the fact that we can all contribute, all hands on deck, every single one, all hands on deck to make Nigeria work. We've had this conversation over and over again. It's 65 years, right? And it seems that we're saying the same things over and over and over again. But we'll keep speaking until the right things are done. We have laws like we have established, so many things on ground, so many policies, a lot of regulation, but implementation and just making them work is a problem. So I think if we begin to really look at the ways of getting things right, okay, how do we get to implement these laws? So it is seen to be implemented, not something shady, but it's actually seen to be implemented, would have, some greater traction and will make us move a bit faster, as he said, than we are moving right now. Yeah.
Leadership comes with accountability.
Absolutely.
And of course, when these lawmakers delve in somewhere, make these laws, it is also, they're partly responsible to explore these laws and how well it's been implemented.
Exactly.
Because you can't have legal frameworks or institutions in place and we're not seeing, not all of it, some of it. So it's a follow-up of We're talking transparency and accountability. Now, which brings me to the aspect of legislature. It's something that cannot be overlooked, especially if we're building a society that we want strong institutions. So these legislators, you put them there, right? But how about the evolution of how this legislature was birthed? I'm sure you want to find out.
Legislature became to one. Well, this legislative council had serious defects. It was purely advisory with little input from Nigerians. The Clifford Constitution of 1922 and the Richards Constitution of 1946 introduced some changes as they opened the door for more Nigerian participation. By 1951, the Macpherson Constitution created regional houses of assembly, planting the roots of federalism. At independence in 1960, Nigeria adopted the parliamentary bicameral system. It had 44 members of the Senate and 306 members of the House of Representatives at the center, while that of houses of assembly and chiefs operated at the regional level, made up of the Governor General as the Queen's representative.
With Nigeria, we thought, I think after the visit of Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa to America, if you saw that his famous speech, he was talking about how beautiful the system of government of the Americans was. So I think we envied their position and thought, because of our diversity in Nigeria, we need to go back to the American democratic way of governance. So I think that is what informed, because of our diversity.
It was a proud moment, but short-lived, as the military struck on the 15th of January 1966 and swept away the legislative arm of government, leaving governance in the hands of the Supreme Military Council for more than a decade.
The legislature is the symbol of democracy, because without it, you don't have democracy. That is the only difference between a military regime and real democracy, the presence of the legislature.
When democracy returned in 1979, the Second Republic introduced the American style of presidential system that we practice today, with a stronger bicameral National Assembly.
The military held sway up to 1979, and in 79, Nigerians decided, by virtue of having a new constitution, to adopt a presidential system of government.
Another military takeover in December 31st, 1983 silenced the legislature, and another military intervention on the 27th of August 1985 further repressed the development of the legislative arm of government in Nigeria. In 1999, Nigeria restored its democracy. Since then, the National Assembly has regained authority, remained assertive, and making laws, overseeing government and amending the constitution to deepen governance. The 1999 Constitution retained the bicameral legislature with 109 senators and 360 members of the House of Representatives.
So it is only between 1999 to date that we have had some level of consistency, some level of stability, in the representation part of the governance, right? So I think it is just proper to now begin to judge or to begin to assess the Nigerian legislature between 1999 to date, because we have not had any interruptions. Now, the 1999 Constitution that was crafted by a sitting military government was dropped on our laps with so much defects, without so many institutions that we have today that are ensuring and making for good governance. It is the legislature, National Assembly, between 1999 to date, that have had to come up with laws, amendments that appear or that is strengthening the democracy we have today.
In terms of corruption, the parliament passed what is today the EFCC bill, the ICBC bill. The parliament has put in place laws that will tackle corruption.
I think what's really important isn't so much that you have these tensions and sometimes expression of anger. What's important is whether they are still, in spite of this, able to carry out their fundamental functions. And my sense is that, yes, they are able to do their work.
From colonial council to today's vibrant National Assembly, the Nigerian legislature has endured trials and rebirths. It now stands as both a symbol of the nation's democratic struggles and the house of the Nigerian people. Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
All right, there you have it, the evolution of legislature. And when that report was on, Mr. Ogaga was, sharing some thoughts with Ayodeji there in their corner. And I'm sure you can't wait to, reveal to us what are your thoughts, especially looking at the legislature as a very strong arm of government. Ayodeji.
Yes, Ruth, interestingly, Dr. Ogaga Efowodo, he has a PhD, and he studied law.
Dr. Ogaga, I beg your pardon.
He's been reserved, the way he's been commenting, but on this particular one, let me bring him in. Dr. Ogaga Efowodo, we've spoken a lot about it, behind the stage here, about this legal document called the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. And most times, it is this constitution, we need a new constitution. But how feasible would that be?
Very feasible.
Take us through it.
I actually hinted at that earlier on when I said, the thing is to have the people themselves decide. We've never really had that moment when Nigerians freely, I'm not talking about, of course, pre-colonial period was pre-colonial period, or colonial period was colonial period, right? So the hand-picked people, sometimes it was based on just the elites, those who had property, who had education, the Macaulays, the Awolowos. But after independence, we made some supposedly good decisions with the independence constitution because of regionalism and derivation. It is the bedrock of a multi-ethnic society, any federating unit. That was just killed with the intervention of the military. And ever since then, it's been tinkering around it rather than hitting the nail on the head. So let's have the people decide. And if we're going to be a federation, there are basic things that cannot be overlooked. We cannot say them only in words and not have them in practice. So everybody says the 1999 Constitution was militarily imposed, and it is a fact. So if that is a fact, why would we not agree to make a new constitution for ourselves? The process is simple enough. We can elect our representatives. If we want to represent social strata in the society, there are means of representing them, from organized labor to the professional bodies, to youth, to women. So the process, we just have to summon the political will to do it. And I know that the reason why we have not done it so far is fears of people who have entrenched interest, people who have come to benefit so much from this skewed federal system, federal only in name, that we have, are afraid of losing the privileges and the benefits that they have come to enjoy over the years and don't want to give them up. But if we are genuine, if we have genuine, enlightened self-interest, then we will know that it is beyond debate that the people should give unto themselves a constitution that reflects their genuine needs and aspirations. So when you say how easy it is, well, like all social events, historical events, where you are trying to aggregate the interest of people, actually as different, as many and clamorous as we are in Nigeria, it's not going to be easy. But if we can have a leader who can assuage some of those fears, or people who think that they're going to lose out if we have a genuine constitution, and then also make them see the immense benefits that they will have. On the other hand, if we have a genuine constitution that frees the energies of the people, make them feel really bound to the country, because filial loyalty to a country is not something you just say, you mouth, and it happens. People have to really feel a sense that with this arrangement, with this constitution, they have hope. The country can actually represent them, and they have a place in it, they are not going to be marginalized, then they become patriots. That's how patriotism comes about. You don't just say, I'm a patriot, when the patria, which is the fatherland, the patria you are supposed to love, has not created a space for you, has not made you feel that you are part of it. I come from the Niger Delta. I'm a minority. And you know the famous issues of the Niger Delta people, that most of the resources around this country come from the Niger Delta. The hydrocarbon wealth of the country is there. And even if it comes to agriculture, from palm produce to rubber and on, we still have the land and the water and fishing. We're talking about blue economy now. But we feel marginalized. We don't feel we're part of the power structure of this country. Then we talk about the East, which feel that ever since the Civil War, they have been taken out of the country. That they don't, in fact, the whole cry for Biafra, whether IPOB, whatever any name we may call it, arises from the fact that they feel that they are not part of Nigeria. And yet even in the West, which many would think that have been very much at the heart of the power structure of the country, feel that they are being held back. They feel they're being held back. So every region, every group has a grievance. How are you going to address those grievances if you cannot bring them together to say, okay, here are the grievances, how do we tackle them? What system of government is going to make it possible for us to feel a sense of belonging? How do we make the federative units the real engine and driving force of the country? The federal government is just a government, right? It's the states, at the federal that people live and work. That is where their roots are. So if we can't do that, then we are not serious about moving the country forward. So to answer the question, it is easy if we convince ourselves that this is inevitable. This is imperative. This is something we must do. We call the Constitution a ground norm. It's a basic norm. It's a basic law. It's a fundamental law. Every other thing stands on it. And famously, the lawyers say that you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. So if the Constitution is a platform, the ground that gives legitimacy to every other thing, if it is faulty, then every other thing is going to be faulty. So if we accept the imperative of it, President Tinubu said in his speech that we are racing against time. Even the oil wealth that we are all depending on to at least keep the country together now, the world is moving beyond fossil energy. How ready are we for that? When all of that goes, where are we going to be? Is it when only after the oil dries up that we will agree to a proper federation? Because part of the fear, let's not hide it, is that if you allow the federative units to go, then what happens to the wealth that is controlled by the federal government at this point? So we must agree that coming along with a proper federation is a derivation principle, which we encourage the federative units to produce. And when they produce, they keep a part we have agreed upon, which in my view can be less than 50%, can be less, otherwise it is meaningless. And then the rest go to the center, which again is going to end up being reinvested in the country. Because when you go to the center, it doesn't go out of the country. It still goes into roads, schools, and every other thing that, and then the administration, peace, and maintaining defense of the country, which at the end of the day is of our mutual interest. So I think it's easy if we agree that this is something we cannot keep sweeping under the carpet.
All right. Well, and so with peace and plenty, Nigeria will be blessed. It's so obvious that the need to get a new constitution to really accommodate the feelings of every unit in the country is paramount. And surely, in little or no time, we pray that becomes a reality. At this stage, let's pause for a moment, and when we return, more on this special broadcast. Remember, all hands are on deck. Stay tuned.
On October 1st, 1960, a new nation was born. Nigeria stood tall, raising her green and white banner of unity, hope, and freedom. From the early struggles of nationhood, through moments of triumph, challenges, and resilience, the Nigerian Television Authority has been there, telling our stories, preserving our history, shaping our voices, and bringing Nigerians together across every region, every home. The laughter, the tears, the milestones, and the dreams. As Nigeria celebrates 65 years of independence, we at NTA remain proud to be part of this remarkable story. Nigeria's journey is our story, and the story continues. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.
Nigeria are about to pull off a massive turnaround. Nigeria celebrating as African champions here in Morocco. They are winners of the WAFCON.
It is a great thing for a nation to have assets that are hope of today, tomorrow, and thereafter. It's just a joy to have you victorious and accomplished. Today, you return home as champions of Africa. We could not be prouder, and it cannot be more historic. Your victory represents more than accomplishment. It is a triumph of courage, determination, discipline, and consistency. You have inspired millions. When I see the proof that their dreams are valid and achievable. You inspired me too. You ignited our hope, and we will continue to encourage you, encourage the next generation and other generations after you. The dedication, thank you for your passion, and thank you for reminding us of the strength of the Nigerian spirit. Crucial time, crucial future. With this, Nigeria belongs to all of you, all of us. Our diversity is an asset if we know how to use it for our prosperity. Born of the same father, in the same house, except living in different rooms. We're united. We must promote unity, stability, and economic justice for every one of us. Our land and for generations to come. Nigeria's spirit is unyielding. For generations to come. And we never die. God bless you.
Powered by National Orientation Agency.
Well, I was actually caught off guard with the last film that you saw there, because those were my colleagues, proudly Nigeria, depicting the true color, reflecting the Nigeria in us. And surely this NTA is just too much. Right now, we're talking about the Constitution and the need to really get people, everyone involved in having a legal document that can really help the country to get where it wants to be. Now, it is feasible. That's what Dr. Ogaga Ifowodo told us. And of course, for those who are just joining us, it's feasible, it's doable if we have the will and also with the right leadership to really bring everybody to the table, to bring their grievances and also work out things to make the country better where all interests are well captured. Let's cross over to the other corner. Ruth Ogwele, me and you, everyone in NTA here will also have our own roles to play in getting the Constitution for the Federal Republic of Nigeria where all interests will be captured.
Indeed, Ayo, you heard what the president said. We're all, you know, in the same entity, but in different, the same family, but in different rooms, eh? Okay, so Dr. Ode, talking about Constitution, talking about the role of governance and what we have been discussing so far. Beyond just, you know, talking about the collective efforts everyone has to, you know, contribute. Ayo mentioned something very sacrosanct, the media, indirectly. He was talking about the media. Before now, we used to see this, and this sense of unity among, you know, the broadcasting. There is still that sense of unity of purpose, of course. But what I'm trying to say is that collective effort, by putting one block at a time, one block at a time, in tune with governance, in tune with initiatives and policies, you know, that are in place. How can we get to that level? Do you foresee that happening? Not everybody in, you know, divided.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
You know, I think I was also the one who mentioned something about the willpower.
Yes.
Yeah, it takes a lot of willpower to get some things done. In fact, to get things done. And it's the same thing in this space. You know, for everyone to realize that we are working together, not at cross purposes. You know, at the end of the day, we want the same thing. We want Nigeria to work. But then bringing in the best of our different capabilities, because we're different as individuals, even as broadcast houses, even as, you know, in the media space, we're all different. But at the same time, it's that unity in diversity, right? But at the same time, we're all working together towards achieving a greater goal and a greater Nigeria at the end of the day. So realizing that and then accepting those differences, not as competitors, even though we may be, but not as competitors, but as collaborators.
Yes.
Because the world is moving in a place of partnerships. I mean, the SDGs are all about partnerships, right? You know, so making sure that we're working as partners, particularly with the end in view. We want a better country. And everything we put in, you know, it's like making a pot of soup. You know, all the ingredients come in to make that one big pot of soup.
Or
so
that
it's
pot of jollof rice we saw here.
Absolutely. That's jollof. Did you eat?
How now?
Okay, just
now.
saying. Just saying. You know, but everything, and thank you so much for bringing up Hilda's jollof, because that's a very good idea, and that's a very good way of bringing everybody together. Hilda didn't do it alone. She had other people who helped. She was not the only one who turned the rice. You know, people contributed. Partners made it happen. So it was one big partnership that had the end in view. And that end was the Guinness World Record. And she actually got it. You know, so if we all synergize and bring out that willpower and realize that, look, at the end of the day, yes, we might have different ideologies and different ways of doing things and all of that. The most important thing is building a good country where governance works, where the ordinary man on the street is taken care of. You know, the man on the street doesn't need to live in a skyscraper.
Yeah.
The man on the street just wants a decent house. He just wants to be able to move from point A to B in safety and security. He wants to be able to take his children to school and let them have a good education. I mean, just the basic things in life to ensure that he has food to eat. That's what the man on the street wants, you know. So it's not about asking for those big stuff, but how about advocating that everyone is well taken care of? That's where equity, you know, comes in. We're not all equal, so to speak, but then there is an equitable distribution of the resources of the land. And we have these resources. That's the point.
Yes.
You know,
and
we're a land so blessed.
Indeed.
So blessed.
Indeed, Dr.
And if we bring them all together, we'd see it.
You know, Dr. Ode, when you were talking about equity, I know you'll soon be leaving us shortly.
Yes.
So I'd like to get your perspectives very quickly, your perspective on the aspect of gender inclusion and the equity we're talking about. We're hearing affirmative action year on, when election is close by. I know there's been a very strong advocacy. Voices have been amplified over time, and we're seeing women come out to lend support to see that our dreams come true, because we have to have a place in decision making. I just want to hear your thoughts going forward, because it's really heartbreaking to see that every year when there's an international observance, that's when we get on that table and we just talk about these issues. What can be done differently?
Willpower. Again.
Okay, I like that.
Back to the willpower, and of course all the advocacy that has been going on. I mean, Prof, before she left, she mentioned this as well, about the women taking a stand to say, no, we can't be left behind. I mean, we should not live in a world where people are left behind. We're talking about the SDGs and everybody is being carried along, you know. So whether it's in inclusion, whether it's in equity, whether it's in, you know, gender, whatever it is that relates to women, it should be prioritized, and not from a point of view of, make we just help them, you know, let's just manage, let's just help them. No, but because women deserve it.
Yeah.
Because women deserve to be at the table. So I hear in circles, in civil society circles, if they don't give you a space at the table, you bring your chair to the table and have a seat there. You know, it definitely takes some guts, it takes some willpower to do that. But I see a lot of force coming in, a lot of advocacy as well coming in from the women to say we need to be at the table. We have things to contribute as well. And this is not about you doing us a favor, but because we do have a lot to say and we have a lot to do when it comes to, you know, making our country better. Because I will say it again and again, at the end of the day, it is about a better country. And we are all working together towards that.
You know, when you were talking, I just had a reflection. It starts from the home, what you teach your girl child, having that willpower, recognizing that her place is not just in the kitchen or just building a career. You can also be in governance. You take that message to schools, you start building a sense of reorientation in their mind. So let's put that in check.
And that's exactly one of the things, I'm so sorry to cut you, Ruth, but that's one of the things that we do at Luxterra to ensure that this message is going on, whether in families, whether in schools, the schools that we work with, but to let people know that you have a role to play. So don't stay in the background and say, you know, let me just hide here. My voice will not be heard. I can't do anything. No, you can do something, and you should be able to add your voice and bring what you have, the gifts, God-given gifts that you have, bring them to the table, because at the end of the day, it will make for a better country.
Indeed, because when that girl child becomes a woman, by the time she's been hearing the word over and over again, it gives her that sense of willpower, right?
Yeah,
all
definitely.
Right. So I want to
does.
thank you, Dr. Inya Ode. Thank you for coming on the program. She's a broadcaster, renowned broadcaster, and a development enthusiast, and also representing Luxterra Leadership Foundation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And happy
Thank you.
birthday.
It
I
was
didn't forget.
It was a great way to spend my birthday,
Oh,
I tell you.
fantastic.
And I'm so grateful to Queen Liz for
Okay.
making it happen for me. I am grateful.
And
I'm
talking about
grateful.
Queen Elizabeth, there's a cake she has for you. She whispered it earlier. So make sure you meet her before you leave to collect
I
that
will.
cake. And your package. She has a package for you too,
I'll
I hear.
definitely do
All
that.
right.
Thank you,
And
Ruth.
you know,
Thank
earlier
you.
we were just speaking about, you know, the role of women in governance. And there are women who actually fought hard, showing resilience, strength, courage. I'm talking about our Nigerian women, our founding mothers, Nigerian women since independence. Let's see that.
Nigeria's struggle for self-governance came to fruition on 1st October 1960, following struggles and efforts by nationalists. Going by history, Nigerian women were part of the struggles, as evident in the Aba Women's Riot, where women protested against taxes imposed by the colonial masters, to mention just a few.
They were working shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Awolowo and Nnamdi Azikiwe and Sardauna of Sokoto in agitating and organizing the women, raising consciousness, doing the necessary grassroots work.
You will find that both in pre-colonial times and during colonial times, Nigerian women have not really lagged behind because they have in various ways made their presence felt.
Over time, despite their contribution to national development, the women folk face challenges in areas like social and cultural barriers, gender inequality, and poor political representation.
In all the struggles for independence, there were only skirmishes and, little points of recognition of the roles of women. Of course, a lot of times women will mention the queens, they will mention the warrior queens and all of that. Amina Uzazo, they will mention Urola, the first female senator in the First Republic, and all of that. But moving forward, one would say that between the 80s into the 90s and now into the 2000s, there has been remarkable progress, which we can mark, but which we who are coming up behind those warrior women are not satisfied with. Because we believe for the country to have moved where it should have moved along with everybody.
We have grandmothers today that were members of the first political parties. And here we are, 65 years down the line, the voices of women are still not heard.
For some analysts, the ongoing call for special seats for women is justified.
Now I know that His Excellency is a gender-friendly president, and of course the First Lady as well. And the best gift that we can have as Nigerian women, as APC women in 2025, in celebrating the 65th anniversary of Nigeria, is for that bill to be granted.
Already through the public hearings, we have seen commitments. We have also seen the possibility that when it comes to that last act in October of throwing the vote for this bill that gives us these special seats, that people will live up to their words.
However, the story is different in women economic empowerment, which many say speaks volume.
The First Lady All Home Initiative in Garden has really improved agricultural development, and it's really helped a lot of women. It opened their eyes, into more of agriculture, and that has also encouraged me into going for empowering a lot of women down home, because when you empower one woman, you have empowered the nation.
The present government's body language is to advance the growth of the women folk.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, since he came into power, he has championed the cause of women. He has appointed a lot of women in his cabinet. Let's not forget the Renewed Hope Initiative of the First Lady of this country. She has touched every state in this country. She has looked at every sector. I'm particularly so impressed the day I heard she was looking at the senior citizens. I don't think there's any First Lady that have actually looked into that direction.
No doubt, Nigerian women are in for a better deal with enabling environment, policies and programs to complement the men in achieving a better and more prosperous Nigeria. Ngozi Technical, NTA News.
All right, there you have it there, the clarion call for equity, social inclusion, especially when it affects women, to have a place. Professor Adeni, I know when they talk about women inclusion and all of that, governance and having the affirmative action come in place, I know you're a strong voice in that regard. You are a he for she.
Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
and so over time you have seen how the advocacy had spanned, and just not too long we're seeing, you know, women agitating and coming out, you know, to get their own support. Yeah. And we're seeing the responses, we're seeing the support we're getting from the legislature and even the present administration. We're seeing that commitment being demonstrated, following by appointive positions we're seeing happening. But what will be your perspective?
Yeah, excellent. I think the important thing to also highlight is that any social system, especially a democracy, has to be about inclusion. It's about integration, you know, and the essence of democracy is to have widespread, holistic representation. You know, so you are not leaving any group, you know, any social group out, you know, whether on the basis of gender, on the basis of income, on the basis of ability or anything else. You just make sure that there is inclusion. But when it comes to the area of women inclusion, it's all the more important, you know, because we're talking about gender here. And of course, I mean, it goes without saying that they have all the capacity to play the role that men are playing, if not for some obstacles. And what are those obstacles? Which we shouldn't pretend about. There are some historical, tribal, cultural, and religious factors that have been impediment over the years, and that's why African, Asian, and maybe Nigerian societies, cultural practices are regarded largely as patriarchal. And sometimes when you see men, you know, talking about he for she or advocating for women's rights, you know, there's a subtext. Sometimes within them, they're actually not very, very sincere. Yeah. You know, there's this element of insincerity there. And against that background is also the need for us to be much more definitive, to be much more frontal about confronting those discriminatory tendencies. Some of them insidious, but very effective, you know, and we see it in all places, public, private sector. And of course, I mean, with reports, media reports of obvious objectification of a major gender, it becomes even much more problematic. But it can be dealt with in different areas beyond advocacy, beyond conferences, beyond issuing communiques, you know. One area that we can deal with it is what Prof. earlier highlighted, affirmative action, and we have seen it done in other places. Then what about tricking the Constitution to make it stronger, like that's been done in Western societies, where obvious acts of discrimination against women are taken very, very seriously. And that's why you see in some societies it looks as if the woman's interest is much more prioritized than the man. Even in some societies that have moved away from this tendency, it is such that sometimes it is even classified. They will tell you in an average home, the woman is the head, the man is second. No, the woman is the head, you know, the pet is the second, and the man is third, you know, which is to say that that gender has been recognized over the years as being discriminated against, being disadvantaged, and for the gender to be helped, there has to be some legal framework, legal mechanism, you know, to ensure the institutionalization of their rights. And anytime you infringe on it, there will be sanctions. And when people realize that there's going to be sanction for infringements, of course, there will be compliance. So those are the things that we need to be mindful of gradually. Then we can change the narrative in consequential terms beyond advocacy, beyond pronouncements, and beyond talk shops.
Indeed, and beyond talk shops, very important, Prof. And you know, Prof, I was just, when I'm thinking of the next report I'm going to call, I look forward to a time where we get to hear that we've had a Senate president that is a woman, or a Speaker of the House that is a woman. Is that possible?
Yeah, well, why not? It's actually possible.
Okay, hold that thought. Okay. Let's take this report. NAS presiding officers, talking about National Assembly presiding officers since independence. Can you find a woman there? I don't know. You tell me.
Here at the National Assembly, precisely in the lobbies of the Senate and the House of Representatives, we have this pictorial representation of successive presiding officers of both chambers of Nigeria's bicameral legislature. We begin first with the Senate.
Nnamdi Azikiwe was first president of the Senate before becoming Governor General at Nigeria's independence and eventually Nigeria's first ceremonial president. He was succeeded by Dennis Usadebe, who held sway between 1960 to 1963. Next in line was Nwafor Rizu, who presided from 1963 to 1966 and was acting president before the military coup. Joseph Wyas holds the record of youngest president of the Senate at 38, enjoying a full tenure in the Second Republic from 1979 to 1983. Iochia Ayu served as president of the Senate in the Third Republic between 1992 to 1993 before he was impeached. He was succeeded by Ame Ebute, whose tenure was short-lived like the Third Republic. On Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999, Evan Ewerem was president of the Senate from June to November 1999 before his impeachment. His successor, Chuba Okadibu, was also impeached after presiding between November 1999 to August 2000. Ayim Pius Ayim became the second youngest president of the Senate at 39, serving between August 2000 to June 2003. Next on the saddle was Adolphus Wabara, who was president of the Senate between 2003 to 2005 when he resigned. Ken Unamani took up the mantle from 2005 to 2007 to pave way for David Mark, who is so far the longest-serving Senate president from June 2007 to June 2015. Bukola Saraki succeeded David Mark as president of the 8th Senate from June 2015 to June 2019. Ahmad Lawan presided as president of the 9th Senate from June 2019 to June 2023, while Godswill Akpabio was elected president of the Senate on June 13, 2023 to date. From the Senate, let's take a walk down the long corridors of Parliament to the lobby of the House of Representatives.
Here we also have in pictures the succession history of presiding officers who have held sway in the hallowed chambers of the House of Representatives.
Jaja Wachuku was first indigenous Speaker of the House of Representatives who received Nigeria's Instrument of Independence on October 1, 1960. His successor was Ibrahim Jallo Waziri, who presided from 1960 to 1966. In the Second Republic, Edwin Umezioke presided from 1979 to 1983, followed by Benjamin Chaha, who served as Speaker for a brief period in 1983. Agunwa Anekwe was Speaker during the short-lived Third Republic. Salisu Buhari was Speaker for a brief period in 1999, but resigned over allegations of age and result falsification. His successor was Gali Naaba, who presided as Speaker of the House from 1999 to 2003. Next in succession was Aminu Bello Masari from 2003 to 2007. Patricia Ete served briefly as the first female Speaker of the House of Representatives in 2007. Her successor was Dimeji Bankole, who became youngest Speaker in the history of the House, elected at 37. Aminu Tambuwal presided as Speaker from 2011 to 2015, paving way for Yakubu Dogara, who was on the saddle from 2015 to 2019. Femi Gbajabiamila held sway as Speaker of the 9th Assembly from 2019 to 2023, while Abbas Tajuddin was elected on June 13, 2023, as current Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Happy 65th anniversary. If you ask me what do I miss best at home or most in Nigeria, I miss the the diversity of the culture. So good to see many Nigerians in diaspora now, but not like when I came to Canada. Not many of us were here. And our beauties in our...
And I want to wish Nigeria a happy 65th. As we are going to word, we're not going to carry last at all. Congratulations, and many more to come. Many success.
As we move forward, I dream of a Nigeria where every citizen has access to quality education, access to affordable healthcare, and access to a country, in Nigeria, that allows us to thrive in our home.
Let those of us in diaspora join hands with those at home to raise Nigeria above challenges and build a country we are all proud to call home.
Nigeria has come a very long way, and I hope and pray that the latter days will be better than the former. I pray that all the good things we get to enjoy here, we enjoy in our country.
Well, I'm glad that we seem to have gotten it right now in terms of the leadership of that great country, in the sense that a lot of flaws in the economy, a lot of foundational issues in the country, in the economy, in terms of security and all that, seem to be receiving the needed attention, infrastructural developments, and so on and so forth.
I guess that Nigeria has a lot of positive narratives, one of the most prominent being our Nollywood industry. The Nollywood industry is one of the biggest industries in the world. Why? Because it projects our cultural diversity. It is also inclusive. Another narrative would be our sportsmanship. We are excelling tremendously in our sporting industry. Look at the Falcons, which is our female football team, and the Tigers, which is our women basketball team. Removing bias from this now. We are also very innovative. Look at all the startups in Nigeria bringing solutions to visible problems. Yes, Nigeria has its ups and downs, but then again, which country doesn't?
Nigeria is a work in progress, and together with unity, dedication, and vision, we can continue to build the country of our dear dream.
My friends, fellow Nigerians, as we celebrate this milestone, let us just remember that our strength has always been in our unity.
We are wishing Nigeria a happy 65th Independence Day. We are sending love, peace, joy, and happiness. Most important of all, we are sending more progress to our beloved Nigeria.
Collectively, we can make Nigeria a better place. We can make the Nigeria that we want. The time for party figures is over. Let's work together and make Nigeria a better place.
It is my utmost prayer that Nigeria, at the present dispensation, is going to improve, is going to change, and a better life is going to be given to the people of Nigeria.
65 years of independence, growth, and resilience. May this milestone celebration mark a new chapter of progress, unity, and prosperity for our beloved nation.
There you have it. There are diasporans there out there who are also connecting with the spirit of Nigeria. Prof, of course, before we saw the diaspora report, we saw Honorable Patricia Ete, who just became a speaker for 4 months. We look forward to a time where we'll really have a woman complete her full tenure. But that aside, let's delve to diaspora engagement, investment. We see the NIDCOM really pushing for that. And we're seeing remittances inflow hitting about $20 billion, annually or more. Going forward, how can we, leverage on that as a nation?
Yeah, very important, really. And of course, when you see diasporic citizens, trying to connect back home, it simply means that they still have that emotional connection. They still want to foster that sense of belonging. They are still long. They still long for the home that they left behind. They are still very nostalgic. They still reminisce. But the important thing that is peculiar with them is also that, they imagine a time when the Nigeria of their dream will materialize. And what is this Nigeria of their dream? A Nigeria whereby their life in a distance, in their places of residence, particularly in Western societies, can be replicated when they are back home. would they be able to have steady power supply, good roads, job opportunities, security? Yes, there are problems over there as well. But of course, if you look at in terms of degree, those problems are more in the home than left behind. And when they continually connect, maybe through remittances, it still means that they are fostering a sense of association. Okay. So what do we do in that circumstance? It's a message, to us back home, that these fellows who have migrated, who have become diasporic, are simply expecting us to up the ante at the level of development, at the level of progress, so that we can grow the nation up to a level where, will make their continual stay in the foreign nations that they are less attractive, where their hope can be reinvested back in their place of origin rather in their place of residence.
Indeed, Prof. I know there's a lot that can be explored and harnessed in that angle. Okay, so Ayo Deji, I want to wake up another feather in your cap. I know you're a sportsman, and of course, sports is one aspect that brings us together in unity. Ayo Deji.
Well, thanks so much, Ruth. It's been 65 years since Nigeria got the independence, and there have been some really highs and lows. But when you remember Chioma Ajunwa's gold in 1996, Nigeria at the FIFA World Cup in 1994, and the AFCON victory of 2013 with Tobi Amusan, so many things to talk about. But Oche Ngbede packaged this for Nigeria at 65 in the world of sports.
The green pitches of Independence Stadium in 1960 to the bright light of Atlanta 96, sport has remained one of Nigeria's most powerful exports. It was in 1968 that Nigeria made its Olympic debut in Mexico, and ever since, the nation has etched its name on the global stage with iconic athletes like Chioma Ajunwa, who leaped into history as Nigeria's first individual Olympic gold medalist, and the unforgettable dream team that stormed the world in men's football at Atlanta 96. Football has been at the heart of Nigerian sporting identity, from the exploit of the Super Eagles, crowned African champions on 3 occasions, to the Super Falcons, Africa's most dominant women football team with 11 continental titles. The round later games continue to unite the nation across ethnicity, language, and religion. But Nigeria's sporting journey goes beyond just football. In athletics, stars like Mary Onyale, Falilat Ogunkoya, Blessing Okagbare, Tobi Amoson, as well as Ese Bromed has carried the green-white green to a new height. In boxing, legends like Dick Tiger and Organ King Baxi became world champion long before independent pride matured. Basketball too has flourished, with the Tigers and the Tigress lifting continental trophies and making Olympic statements. In recognition of this achievement, the current administration under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has rewarded athletes with cash gift, a gesture of appreciation for their service and excellence.
Your victory represents more than the sport accomplishment. You made us very, very proud.
As Nigeria marks 65 years of nationhood, the task ahead is clear: to build a structure that will match the talents, to invest in grassroots development, and to nurture the next generation of stars who will take the nation to even greater heights.
If you are number 1 to 10 in any sport, then you are among the best in the world. I would not say that this is where we are supposed to be. We are still far away from where we are going to. But I can tell you, with deliberate, concerted efforts, we can still make a lot of A's when the sun is shining.
With the new federations elections that are ongoing, we believe that the new elected sport administrators will do something and take off back to where we were before. But before now, Nigeria has made a great significant achievement as far as sport development is concerned.
From independence to this very moment, sport has remained a unifying force and a pride for many Nigerians. Today, we're not just celebrating 65 years of nationhood, but also 65 years of sporting excellence, hope, and a promise for a brighter victories ahead. Happy Independent Anniversary, Nigerians. In Abuja, Oche Ngbede, NTA News.
All right, from the world of sports, let's check the E in entertainment in the last 65 years. Okay, sorry, the E is missing at the moment, but surely there will be something on entertainment. Well, Dr. Ogaga, well, we've been seeing a lot of packages from my colleagues to really reflect and depict the moment that we're having with Nigeria 65. As we round off our conversation, let me have your thoughts on what you've seen and with a precise and concise submission as to what we can expect in terms of growth by the time we come back October 1, 2026.
We're talking about followership, the duties of the citizens, even as much as we talk about leadership. But I'm going to take it back to leadership. Chinua Achebe famously said that the problem of Nigeria is the problem of leadership. We need a leadership that is bold, courageous, visionary, and will put nation above self at all times, ready to make huge sacrifices. The tough decisions that Nigeria has to make, we need a leader that is prepared, even at the cost of even losing office, to go to the people and say, this is where we need to go, this is what it's going to take, I'm ready to do it if you're ready to follow me, if you're ready to all come together for us to do it. I hope that President Tinubu is that leader, because we've seen him take certain decisions that many former presidents shied away from. I know that it has come with cost. Is petroleum subsidy removal, the closure of the arbitrage system in the forex exchange market, and I mentioned earlier the local government autonomy, and now trying to allow states to do some of the things that the federal government appropriated for itself that ought not to have appropriated for itself. But it needs to be taken up, ratcheted up a notch higher than it is right now, because the world is moving ahead, and they're not going to wait for us. And we're already too far behind. So we need courage, vision, commitment, sacrifice from the leadership, both at the federal level and across the various state, capitals. That is what is going to make our next Independence Day celebration a happier story than today.
Interesting conversation there. For Nigeria 65, it's been a good hangout in the last 4 hours and 54 minutes or thereabout. Yes. And surely, I know Ruth would have something to say as we round off our conversation. It's not easy. 65 years old, Ruth.
Indeed, Ayo, and my heart beats for Nigeria, and I'm sure yours too beats for Nigeria. Interesting conversation from your corner. We want to thank Doctor, of course, for bringing all his wealth of experience on board, and we appreciate all our guests who have joined us over time. From the beginning of the show in the morning, it's been awesome. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, any last word before we go?
Yeah, well, it's been
very briefly.
Yeah, it's been well said. 65 years, it's not a joke. In the life of a human being, you could say it's a lot, but not in the life of a nation. Nations can grow for as long as 1,000 years, even though we also know the nations can grow for shorter years. But at 65, there's every cause for us to be celebratory. And of course, like my colleague said over there, we need to continue to steady our ship, steady our gate, so that by the time we're 66 and moving up to 70 and more, we'll be a better nation.
Indeed, and that's why all hands must be on deck. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time.
My
Always a pleasure. You are a part of the NTA family, and it just shows the true nature of your Nigerianness, because you support growth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, so we appreciate you who have been our company. I'm talking about you, yes, the viewer, been our company from the start of this broadcast. Thank you so much, and keep the spirit of Nigeria very, very high, because united, we will continue to stand, but divided, you know what will happen. I'm Ruth Aguele. Do have a fantastic evening. Happy Independence Anniversary.